Freedom Convoy truckers are warning nefarious elements may try to plant weapons in a false flag, stolen weapons nonetheless, after 11 people were arrested with a weapons cache. They're trying everything they can to stop this group of protesters. Doesn't seem to be working. Trudeau's invoking these emergency powers for the first time. He's being condemned widely for it. And there's a really funny meme from Political Compass memes because I retweeted Vosh, who criticized Trudeau, and they're like, what's happening? You know, and it shows like a stone toss comic, and it's like me and Vosh are like shaking hands. And then people are commenting that Tim's a centrist, so this is not as shocking as people like think it is. But anyway, it's kind of scary how far it's gone in Canada. But I think it should bring about optimism because it shows you that these protests work. We've also got the Ottawa police chief, I believe is police chief, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's resigned.
Slowly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, slowly. And another report saying that those donations that were being sent to the truckers, actually most of them came from Canada. It was not America like Trudeau was trying to argue. So we'll get into all of that stuff. Plus we have a creepy CGI video. The family of the cinematographer killed by Alec Baldwin has filed a lawsuit. They've released a CGI video showing exactly how it went down, or at least the description of how it went down. And as much as I don't like acting like CGI video as evidence, I think it will help people understand how it went down. It was indoors. It was in a tight, this location. You'll see what the building kind of looked like. It's an artist rendering of it. I'm going to maintain my position. I think Alec Baldwin killed that woman. I think it may have been accidental, but I think it may have been just a fit of rage. Something ain't right there. And so with this new lawsuit, new information is coming out. We're going to talk about all that. Plus we have Remington settling a massive lawsuit over $70 million. And this one just makes absolutely no sense to me. But joining us to talk about all of this is Mr. Drew Hernandez.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always fun. It's always fun to be here with the gang. Can you guys hear me?
We sure can.
We're good to
All
go,
right.
yeah.
Introduce yourself, good sir.
Well, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Drew Hernandez. I've done a lot of on-the-ground reporting. You may have seen my stuff from the 2020 riots and stuff like that. And we have some announcements to make tonight as well with a brand new show as well. So it's going to be fun.
Awesome.
Right on. We also got Chris Karr hanging out.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me back. Good to be here.
And who are you, sir?
I am the executive editor of the newsroom for Timcast.com. Got the
very
Rockstar
cool.
journalist turning out great work every single day.
Yeah, great website.
Yeah,
So-
good site. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
works
really
for me.
lucky they have all those members over at
That's
timcast.com
true.
who support
Very
the site,
lucky.
allowing the hiring of such great reporters.
We love you all.
Yeah. And we got Ian.
What's up, everybody? Ian Crossland. Good to see you.
And I'm also here pushing buttons in the corner, trying to get the sound just right, tweaking it. We check it every night, but sometimes it's still a little high. But we're going to have a great show tonight. Stoked to have Drew back again. Let's get
Yeah,
going.
I noticed though, Ian, you never introduced yourself.
I leave it to the imagination.
Oh, my gosh.
A guy with a
Let's
bunch
put it
of
that
weird
way.
rocks
Who's
in
that?
front of
It's
him.
true, yeah.
Talks about
Who's this
DMT and
guy?
graphene all day.
Is it human?
Oh,
Is it human? All right, everybody, before we get started, we have an awesome sponsor. We have BioTrust. Head over to eatrightandfeelwell.com and you can get 51% off of your Keto Elevate C8 MCT oil powder. This stuff's awesome. You mix it in your drinks, you mix it in your coffee. That's what I like to do. And it provides you with all that excellent ketogenic energy granting you the medium chain triglycerides. If you head over to eatrightandfeelwell.com, not only will you get 51% off, you'll get a 60-day money-back guarantee. Keto Elevate provides your body only C8, the most ketogenic MCT. That means it provides support for energy levels, healthy appetite management, mental clarity and focus, athletic performance. You'll get 5 grams of the highly sought-after MCT C8 per scoop. Keto Elevate, personally my favorite. I love mixing it into my coffee, as I explained. You'll get free shipping on every order. And for every order today, BioTrust donates a nutritious meal to a hungry child in your honor through their partnership with NoKidHungry.org. To date, BioTrust has provided over 5 million meals to hungry kids. Please help them hit their goal of 6 million meals this year. With your order, you will get free VIP live health and fitness coaching from BioTrust's team of expert nutrition and health coaches for life with every order, and their e-report, the top 14 ketogenic foods, with your order. So again, go to eatrightandfeelwell.com. Shout out. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show, BioTrust. And don't forget to go to timcast.com. Become a member, because we're going to have a special members-only segment coming up for all of you guys after the show. These are for our members to help give you something in exchange, I suppose. Those are Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. But as a member, you will help keep all of our staffers employed. And that's the most important thing, I suppose. We run the operation primarily off of your memberships. Not to mention, we do have sponsors for sure, but we run off memberships. So don't forget to sign up and also smash the like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends. Let's check out that first big story from the Daily Mail. Freedom Convoy leaders claim nefarious elements are planning to plant 2,000 stolen guns on protesters in Ottawa to discredit their movement after Mounties arrested 11 with cache of firearms in Alberta. Convoy Security Chief Danny Bulford made the allegation in a video address late Monday night. Claimed nefarious elements plan to plant firearms on demonstrators to discredit them. Suggested the plot could be linked to a truck filled with guns stolen in Ontario early Sunday morning. Police say that the truck was stolen as a crime of opportunity by crooks who first tried several other trucks. But Bulford thinks it could be a dark plot to crack down after Trudeau's emergency declaration. On Monday, Mounties seized 15 guns and arrested 11 at a border blockade in Coutts, Alberta. Convoy leaders have declined to address the arrests, cutting off a press conference when asked about them. Now, I don't know about all that false flag stuff, conspiracy stuff, but I will say they're trying everything in their power to shut this down. So what do you guys think in terms of plausibility for something like this?
Well, I think from the very get-go, what's been happening in Canada is just completely slanderous. I mean, they've been calling them domestic terrorists. They've been calling them a threat. They've been calling them insurrectionists. It's like the same buzzwords you see across the entire board. They did the same thing with J6. But this is interesting because there are legitimately peaceful people in this protest, but they still use these words and these slander against them. So you have to ask yourself, like, you're seeing their federal government try so hard to slander who these people really are. I mean, this is a protest with bounce houses and inflatables, and there's children, and people are just demanding freedom, and it's like not violent. But when you read something like that, it's really not that too far off to be like, maybe something like that could be going on, because they're trying to slander these people from the very get-go.
That's the problem, is that the slander is not sticking, right? So at this point, they have to make these people look violent. And I think they would probably resort to any means in order to do that.
Yeah, I'm not one for these kinds of conspiracies. Show me the hard evidence, speculation. But the challenge, I suppose, though, is they've tried everything. They've tried claiming this violence. They've tried using.
They did the swastika. They did the what was it?
Confederate flag.
The Confederate flag. They haven't done the N-word yet. Let's see if they can say one of the truckers said it.
They've
Give it time.
They've
done QAnon.
None of it is working.
Yeah.
They're trying everything and anything to discredit people that just want freedom. And that's what people need to, like, really. These are people demanding freedom. They want bodily autonomy, right? Like, they're really not calling for anything else other than we don't want to be forced to take a jab, right? We want freedom. That's what we want. And it's crazy when you see them slander them as, like, they're xenophobic. When you have like minorities or you have immigrants that are truckers in Canada.
There's there's a viral video of these like Indian guys and they're on chairs or whatever, and they're bouncing and playing music and everyone's dancing to it, and it's like Punjabi music.
Yeah, and those are the xenophobes, those are the racists, but it's like it's these same buzzwords over and over again. But I think people really need to ask themselves, like, what you got to think about it invertedly, right? If you're a totalitarian psychopath, those people are terrorists in your eyes. Those people are a problem. Those people do pose a threat to you. Because if you are a totalitarian psychopath, anyone that's demanding freedom in any way, shape, or form, by definition, that's what they are in your eyes. And I think a lot of Canadians that are just kind of in the hive mind right now, and shout out to Canada. I love the Canadians, man. But there's a lot of people out there that just eat up, just like here in the United States, that eat up these lies, and they just believe them and they gravitate towards them. It's like, well, the government said so it must be true. But in a sense, what I'm trying to say is they are a threat to the regime. They are terrorists to the regime because they pose a threat to what they want to control.
If you're the high life royalty atop your ivory tower and the peasants have made their way in, heavens. Yeah, they're absolutely disruptive to your way of life.
It's the Lord Farquaad mentality, right?
Yeah,
100%. Yes, exactly. And I think people need to just have you ever stopped to consider the perspective of Trudeau? He's sitting there minding his own business with his tea and crumpets and expensive champagnes when all of a sudden these dirty pores are trying to tell him what to do. I mean, yeah, these people absolutely are terrorists going after him. Oh, heavens.
Well, yeah, he's given us explicit insight into how he views who he is versus who the deplorables are, because that video that's recirculated lately of him talking about how much he admires China and the Chinese government for being able to, I think he said, be able to turn their economy around on a dime, whatever that means. And
at the same time in that video, he also insults other people Harper for wanting to be a dictator, and it's like,
what? Project much?
Right.
You're the one advocating for it.
One of the problems I've got with the trucking convoy is I don't know what they want. And I'm confused.
What are you talking about? They want to end the vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
But they want more. I just watched a video with a trucker on national news somewhere. I'll find it on Twitter. It was like British news or something. And he was like, so what do you want? And the guy was like, we want to, and he's like, you want to end the vaccine mandate? He's like, yeah, we want to end that. And what else do you want? Well, we want freedom. And I'm like, what is that? I think he wants like an American Constitution, but it's vague, and so I don't know how to give it to him.
If they tell you, Ian, we want to end the mandates, and you're expecting more than that,
he's like, and what else? Once they do that, will you go home? They're like,
brainwashed.
no. And then he was like saying there's more, but they want freedom, and like they just want freedom. Like, what does that even mean?
And who are they talking to?
I don't know, man.
Exactly.
I'll see if I can pull this up.
Yeah.
I'll pull
Look,
this
man,
article up.
The whole thing is about the vax mandates, all right? And that's why they give you one response. But of course, there's other things. They want to be respected. They want to be heard. They're tired of the abuse. I will say in response to this guy coming out and saying there's a potential false flag, smart. Because they're going to smear him as crazy. Yep. They're going to say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. Well, better than letting them come with a big truckload of guns.
Yeah, the other part of what I was going to say is I'm glad that this story is shouting out that there are leaders involved, because that was the problem with Occupy Wall Street is there was no leadership. And so there was no unified message, and it dissipated. I hope that these leaders can put one together.
Yeah, I think they do have very strong leaders. And I know that one of the things that I was seeing from the press was they were saying that the word freedom has become supposedly a right-wing talking point. And I was like, there you go. That's it. That's how everything's shaking out right now. And that's how you know which side of history you want to be on. Do you want to be on the side of history that says that freedom is a right-wing talking point? Or do you actually care about freedom and want people to make their own choices? 90% of truckers have gotten vaccinated, and it's not enough for them. They're still not allowing that last 10% to live freely and to work freely and to cross the border freely. That's all they want. They just don't want the last 10% who feel like they shouldn't have to take it to have to take it. That's basically what they want. That's their version of freedom.
I was laughing this past weekend because the counter protesters started coming out. You know, they're running around with their commie flags and all that, right? And you see some of these protests. I posted this on Twitter the other last weekend. Some of them are like throwing themselves in front of trucks, like into oncoming traffic. And it's like, so you're counter protesting people shutting down streets by shutting down streets and throwing yourself in front of oncoming traffic, because, you know, that just makes total sense.
It really does, in a very counterintuitive but very human, ancient way. They are advocating for enslavement. They really are. And that's not the first time this has happened. Like, that does happen. Sometimes in certain cultures, people advocate for enslavement, and they're literally doing that, and it's terrifying.
There were a lot of people that were defending Ron DeSantis and Florida when they were passing this bill, the anti-rioting law, that makes it a felony to block the roads in certain circumstances. And I said, nah, man, you can't. That's why I'm not in favor of that. And we've had people come here and argue and say, no, there should be harsh penalties for these people. And we always say this, you pass a law, it will be used against you. Of course, this is up in Canada. I know, not Florida, not the same thing. But if we want to have an American trucker protest, all of a sudden these anti-riot laws come into play. The left will be laughing and being like, "Oh, you got what you asked for. Here we go, baby. We're going to start arresting all these guys on felony charges." So, I think you've got to give room to nonviolent civil disobedience. That being said, as for what's going on in Canada, Trudeau's lost the plot. War powers or emergency powers or whatever he's doing over what? Bouncy house? Over
inflatables.
But think about it. It's over
jacuzzis.
People, it's over people not wanting to serve, not wanting to participate. And so they're treating these people who are just saying no to the system as if they're violent extremists.
It is so interesting to me because this smacks of what America is trying to do by painting all right-wing people as a form of terrorists. Because one of the things that the emergency powers in Canada are supposed to do, they're supposed to protect Canadians from like actual threats to their physical well-being. And I think it was Ben Shapiro I was listening to earlier today made the point about how there were riots in Canada like last year, not to the extent there were in the US, but the Black Lives Matter stuff was going on in Canada as well. Never shut that down. They never said we need emergency powers for that. That was actually a threat to Canadian businesses and to Canadian lives and well-beings, and they just didn't care. This is different. This is political. This is deeply troubling to me. I have a serious problem with this. Not good.
Yeah, Trudeau's, he seems sad.
He seems
You watch
worried.
these videos and it's just like
Yeah.
he's talking with Biden. He has no idea how to handle this, and what he's doing now isn't working.
Yeah.
And they're beyond desperate. But what do they do? What do you do? He's like, I'm not going to call in the military. I won't do it. But eventually, if he moves in and uses force, it'll only make it worse. So it's time, he and the rest of them realize they lost. It's over.
Is this crackdown going to work? I mean, after going on 3 weeks of this, or 2.5, or whatever it is, I'm really curious to know if this crackdown will work. I don't know if it will or not.
Well, define work.
Will it be a CCP style suppression of people that are literally advocating for freedom?
Like Tiananmen Square?
Yeah, exactly.
Tanks roll
That's
in?
exactly what I'm thinking of. Will they move into that realm of suppression, and will it work? Because it's worked over there.
It works, but it works to like get the trucks off the road. But whether or not it works to preserve Canadian, freedom, I don't think you can blast your own citizens and expect to stay in power in this day and age.
Well, there's
Not in
different
Canada.
There's different arts of warfare, right? There's obviously like military powers, there's physical war, and then there's monetary, like there's like economic war, right? There's cyber warfare. There's all types of different ways you can go about taking your enemy out. And I think they're clearly right now using psychological warfare, and they're shutting down bank accounts. They're trying to use economic warfare by drowning these people out. They already took to the streets and tried to take their gas, but I think they're trying these different things, and in my opinion, I think they're pretty serious things. I mean, when you're trying to like shut down someone's bank account because they're asking for freedom, that's a huge problem to me. That's just as serious, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see, like, what is these 24-year-olds going to get their bank account shut down for the rest of their lives? Is that the plan, Justin?
No.
Dude, without court orders, maybe this is just lining everybody up for when the social credit system comes in.
Yeah.
This is just prepping it all. Or, I was saying this story reminds me of Watchmen. Maybe in order for them to, for the powerful elites to enact their one world currencies or whatever, international free trade agreements they want to get through, they need people to unify around a villain. They embody all the things they don't want people to do, be jerks about it, and then everyone pulls back and does the opposite. So Bitcoin, for instance. How do you get mass adoption of a different currency? Destroy the other one, be a villain, make everyone think it's the safe haven. Quick, everybody run. Bitcoin's the only way to save you. They're freezing our bank accounts. Then all of a sudden everyone's using a global digital store of value that's trackable.
That's how they used to hunt buffalo, man. They just chase them off a cliff. Scare them to run towards wherever they thought was safe, and it happened to be a cliff that they would run off of.
And then they would climb down and just pick them up.
Yep.
That's how, don't tell like hawks and like falcons or whatever, they do that for goats.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, like the mountain goats will climb up and be licking salt or something, and then the big bird just swoops in and hits it, and then just flips off the cliff and
I've
slams
seen
into
them
the
do
ground.
that. That's wild.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it, man.
This is. I think I saw a Trudeau quote earlier today. I think he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing. Someone could find this if they're listening. He said somewhere near to the extent of, like, not only are these people that are the protesters, like the ones that are unlawful, but those that are supporting it as well. And like when you start to see stuff like that, that's when people need to seriously wake up. Like, I don't care what your politics are, but when you see someone saying like, okay, those people are wrong, they should be silenced, they don't have the right to protest or shut down a street, whatever. But then when you hear someone start to say you can't even affiliate with those people, it's getting into some weird territory. And I don't think, whatever your politics are, I think you should really take note of that, because just being affiliated with someone and that's like breaking the law, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, does that mean all the phone carriers that are giving truckers phone access right now?
Like, how far does that go?
Yeah.
It's always these vague statements. Like, what does that mean? Like, what exactly does that mean to you?
I saw a funny meme. I want to highlight this story because I think it really is relevant. From Timcast.com, first, I'll give you this. Justin Trudeau invokes emergency powers in effort to stop protests. Trudeau's government has declared the ability to freeze bank accounts and suspend the rig insurance of truckers involved in the Freedom Convoy. Wow. Now, that's the story, which is the precursor to the actual story here. I was browsing Reddit, as I often do. Most of you know I'm flipping through Reddit all the time. When I come across Political Compass memes, I'm a fan. They've got 533,000 members. And I see this. It says, Canada, what have you done? And it shows Vosh's tweet. For those that are familiar, Vosh is a socialist YouTuber. And then it says Tim Pool retweeted. And I'm like, I don't understand. What is this? And I look down and they have a stone toss comic. In the first panel, it shows me, which they call me Libertarian Right, and Vosh, a leftist. And he reaches out his hand, we shake hands, and then we look over at Trudeau, who looks like some kind of hunchback goblin or whatever. But the comments are then filled with people saying Tim Pool is lib center, not lib right. But I think it's funny. Vosh tweeted, Trudeau explaining to his people how revocation of citizenship is the only way to protect Canada from the striking Dairy Queen workers. And it's a really good
That's
tweet.
hilarious.
And then it shows the Ingsoc 1984, Big Brother, all that stuff. And I thought it was a fantastic tweet from Vosh. And so I retweeted it. And I was like, yeah, right on. And then he makes a bunch of other points following up on that thread where he's like, how are you all not getting it? That if they can freeze your bank without a court order, if you ever stage a general strike or try and stand up against these big corporations or the power of government, they will freeze you out. I find that really funny. As much as I agree with Vosh in that point, I'm like, dude, the vaccine mandates are worse than that. Yeah. The vaccine mandates are like, we can take away your money. And you're like, fine, I'll go, I'll figure out another way to make money. But the vaccine mandates are, you can't enter any of these buildings unless you inject this into your body. You have no bodily autonomy. Right. Yo, if someone came to me and said, you have two choices. We can take away your bodily autonomy and inject things into you against your will, or you can't use a bank. I'd be like, yo, I'll figure out something else.
I won't use
got
a bank.
Bitcoin,
Yeah.
I got crypto.
Yeah.
I'll barter. I'll whittle a sailboat on a piece of wood and trade it to someone in exchange for a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
But if it's vax mandate, you can't even go inside the building to try and trade your little wooden sailboat. So I don't understand how all of a sudden Vosh is like, this is the line for me. You can't take my money. It's like, but you're okay with them injecting people against their will? Well, look, at least on the one thing we can agree. So I will say the meme is great, showing that whatever different factions we have here, everybody is unhappy with Trudeau and thinks it's really, really bad. I will add, though, the responses to Vosh's tweet, you got a lot of people on the left who are like, you're wrong on this. It's good what he's doing.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, just pull up any one of Justin Trudeau's most recent, cycle of deranged tweets. Check out those comments from Canadians that are in support of him. Like full on, complete salute support of whatever their great prime minister wants to do.
I'm looking for the Abraham Lincoln, Justin Trudeau metaphors where they're like, sometimes you have to suspend habeas corpus.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. That connection's there.
Yo, man, if this is the direction we're going into.
They're the ones who radicalize. They want to accuse their political opponents of being the ones that radicalize people. But that's exactly what they do, because we know they accuse of what they're doing. But, I know a lot of people listen, and it's like, why does this political side always get to do that? Like, they get to accuse their political opponents of doing exactly what they do, but at the same time, like, that's their art. Like, they use all these buzzwords, they slander, they say you're this, they say you're that, and what that does is it radicalizes people to do stuff and take actions. Like when this all first started, you guys remember the viral photo that went out of the guy with a face mask on, literally tried to run someone over in the trucker convoy in a Jeep? Turned out to be like an Antifa affiliate or something like that. Like, that's what I'm saying is like this is dangerous. Like when we all talk about like rhetoric and talk about when people are talking about certain things, like there's freedom of speech. We understand that. But they're the ones that use these buzzwords to get people radicalized, where it actually turns into real world violence, and they don't say a word about it. They just let it go by because they're justified. They're justified in their own minds, because if you're a terrorist, then you have every right to protect yourself, because they're going to hurt you and your family somewhere down the line, because they're the scary truckers. They're the ones that radicalize people.
That's what I didn't get is you're supposed to protect other people's rights until they're proven guilty. So why all of a sudden, just because the word terrorist gets involved, do we not protect their rights anymore? I don't like that. That's a new thing as of like 2001.
Yeah, a lot of people pointed out how scary it was. I was listening to Dave Smith on Joe Rogan. Did you guys listen to that one?
Of course.
Dave's great.
Yeah.
He was just he was talking about Brian Stelter, and he was saying that misinformation is dangerous, and putting out a story claiming that certain tragic events didn't happen is dangerous. And then Dave Smith is like, Barack Obama signing the indefinite detention provision and the media not covering it is dangerous.
Yes.
And it's
I
like,
love him, man. He is
that's true.
He nails it.
On
laser,
point.
laser focused.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this was back, I think, in like 2012. Obama signed into law the National Defense Authorization Act, which included a provision that said the U.S. government can detain you anywhere on the planet without charge or trial. And it should have been the biggest news the anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian types were all screaming about it, the activists. I made a video about it way back in the day, and Brian Stelter's angry that people are posting nonsense on social media. So that's what you get when from CNN. But look, nobody watches CNN. Their ratings are in the gutter, and this is exactly why. And that's the point Dave was making. He was like, have you ever self-reflected and asked yourself why it is people believe these YouTube videos or believe these conspiracy videos? Why is it they don't trust you anymore? It's because you don't tell the truth. It's because you're not talking about things people care about. Right. You're not interesting. But more importantly, it's because you lie. They lie enough.
And you spend... CNN just spends all of their time telling you like why you shouldn't listen to somebody rather than just like telling the truth in and of itself, or even like presenting the truth as like a counter argument to whoever they're trying to debunk. They just like sit there and they tell you who's dumb, who's stupid, you shouldn't listen to, they're right wing, and they're just like not a credible source. It's like, if that's become your news organization, you're no longer a news organization. You just have a very, very strong opinion, which is fine, but don't call yourself a reliable source.
Right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, dude. It's like literally ridiculous at this point. Cause like at one point, I want people to ask themselves, like, are you offended by this? Like, do I need CNN to lecture me about what's true and what's not? Like, am I too stupid to think for myself? Like, why don't people ask themselves these questions, especially with the whole Joe Rogan thing? It's ridiculous, dude. Like, why is Brian Stelter triggered that Joe Rogan used the N-word? It's like, dude, who cares?
Someone told him to be triggered about it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but who cares at this point if Joe Rogan used the N-word? Because like who gets exclusive rights to a certain word? Listen, if you are a certain color, if you are a race, and you literally declare that I have exclusive rights to a certain word because of my racial superiority, you're a racist. I don't care what color you are. If that's your thinking, that's what you are. And I know a bunch of black people are going to be triggered, but I don't care at this point. All the white liberals are going to be triggered, but I don't care. I
got to correct you. It's going to be the white liberals.
The white liberals. It's always the white liberals that are up in my comment sections. Oh, you don't know that. I'm like, dude, nobody cares. It's funny. Joe Rogan's funny. Yeah. Who cares?
It's the people.
How come you guys didn't care before?
I'm pretty sure.
How long have those clips been out?
Because he had Robert Malone on the show.
How long have those clips of Joe Rogan been in existence?
Years.
That was the interesting thing. I think it was Brian Stelter that let that slip through. He was just like, I'm paraphrasing, but he was just like, the reason that this video of the N-word is resurfacing is because of his vaccine misinformation. He literally just kind of like gave the game away. The whole con, and I mean, he's right. He actually like said something that was truthful. The vaccine stuff that they're trying to push isn't working, and they isolated Joe Rogan. They were just like, let's attack other things that he said.
There was a period. There was a period for several years where I felt like, the mainstream corporate press was doing such a miserable job. They had to be corrected and called out. Now at this point, when I'm seeing so few people actually watch them, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't even bother talking about them because now it's just punching down. You know, it's like, look, it's
true.
Let's be real. They're not trustworthy. Yeah. People don't trust them. People don't watch them. I mean, YouTube forces CNN down people's throats, and Rachel Maddow still plays well for the boomer crowd. But the boomer crowd's aging out of
relevance
of our society. Yeah. And just to be light about it, but they're no longer in the workforce. They're moving out of the workforce. They're moving out of the voting pool. For some reason, they still are elected representatives, but the boomers are kind of aging out. Gen Xers will be aging out 15, 20 years, completely out. Millennials will be here for some time. Gen Z's aging in. And at this point, I'm just like, if we're not watching this stuff and they've become irrelevant, and the only people they're relevant to are the people who aren't as active as the rest of us, I think at a certain point, you cross that hill. You know what I mean? You're climbing uphill, challenging the mainstream press. And then one day you realize they're just not relevant to this world anymore.
Yeah, that is kind of a soft rule that I have with the newsroom when I speak to our journalists is, because a lot of times we'll pitch stories about, oh, well, CNN did this deranged thing today, or MSNBC had this ridiculous comment today. And it's just like, generally speaking, I don't think we should be covering corporate press unless it's something especially egregious and especially insane.
Sure.
Because, I mean, it would be endless. And I've had that conversation with our writers. It's just like, it would just be an endless cycle of like, Psycho says this, and we have to cover Psycho says this. And I mean, we can't really do that. Except for one writer who is especially triggered by anything that Leanna Nguyen says, and I am too. So it's just like, all right, let's see what Leanna Nguyen said.
She's off a rocker. I mean, Dave Smith was also talking about this with Rogan. Rogan brought it up that she's saying like unvaxxed people shouldn't be allowed to leave their homes. Yeah, but, I hear that and I'm listening to it and it's funny. But at a certain point, I'm like, does it matter anymore?
Yeah, I agree with you.
If we get to the point where the truckers are just going to do their thing and Trudeau can't stop it, we get to the point where we all wake up one day and say, Joe Biden is not relevant to my life. Trudeau, for those in Canada, not relevant to my life. What matters is what we have faith in, what we have confidence in. And this system ain't working. You know what I mean? So if people just woke up one day and said, I'm not going to comply or participate in your garbage, I'm going to do my own thing, it would change instantly. And you look at what's happening now. This is funny. It was, I remember it was a month or two ago when Luke was here and I said, I think the mandates are going to get worse. I think they're going to lock down hard. And Luke said he didn't think so. I think I had a good reason to think that. Frederick County, for instance, just reintroduced mask mandates. They were trying to bring them back, but the pushback was too great, and I didn't count on that. Maybe I was a little too pessimistic. Luke had that one right. You look at what's happening in Canada now. All of a sudden, DC, who just started putting in place his mandates, goes, "Oh, we're getting rid of all of them. All the mandates are gone now." Frederick County is now pulling their mandate back after a month, because they realized it wasn't working anymore.
No one cares.
And if no one cares, guess what happens? You've got to maintain this facade that you have power and that if you do something, people will obey it. But if they enact this mask mandate and no one obeys it, and half the people in Frederick County weren't doing it, this is in Maryland, by the way.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden people start to realize, hey, wait a minute. The government can't do anything about anything. I mean, take a look at speeding, for instance. Everybody speeds, literally everyone, to the point where you're never going to get, for the most part, you can get singled out. But everybody speeds. You don't get pulled over. Why? Because there's not enough cops to pull everybody over when they're speeding about 5 miles over the limit.
And the wonderful thing is if everyone's speeding together, it's safer to speed. You actually get a ticket for going the speed limit at that point. If it's a 60-mile-an-hour zone and everyone's going 80, you better be going 80 because
That's
that's how you drive safe.
Yeah.
And the cop will pull you over if you're not going the speed of traffic.
But what you're saying is it's happening at scale in Ottawa. I mean, there was an unnamed source. I forget which Canadian outlet that it was reported in, but an unnamed source in the police department says that they're paralyzed.
Yeah.
They said they're totally paralyzed by what's happening in the streets of Ottawa with this protest. And that's right. There's nothing that they can literally do about it. There's too many people speeding.
So if we get to the point where people keep leaving cities, they start moving out to the middle of nowhere, if more and more people start learning how to be responsible for themselves, then eventually we could wake up one day and there's just some pathetic shell of a federal government we don't pay attention to.
Oh, that's a really warm,
That
soothing
sounds
thought,
wonderful.
isn't it?
I know,
That's
sounds
really
great.
exciting.
Yeah.
Libertarian spectrum rejoice.
Yes.
We're all like, wow.
Definitely the spectrum.
I just think I think it's like the general public. Like, how many photos of Gavin Newsom do you need to see with him
Yeah.
without a mask on at a
Super
gathering with
Bowl.
thousands of
Yeah.
people, or with Magic Johnson and Mayor Eric Garcetti, and like how many of these do you need to see that, like, hey, this isn't actually the reality they're claiming it really
How
is.
many judges do you have to see that wear white wigs before you realize what a facade this is right now?
Our judges wearing white wigs.
People wear like big costumes and stuff when they're adjudicating, and like all over the world they do this weird parliamentary crap to make them stand
completely-
out.
I think Ian just
so
rolled
weird.
two 20s. That wasn't just a 20, and that was
Double crit.
220s at
double. That
once?
was double.
Confirm the crit. Yeah.
Confirmed crit. I got to tell you, man. The suit wearing, there was it. I just think people are desperately trying to put on fronts
Yes.
to justify what they're doing, and that's so much of what our civilization and society is. Everybody wear your suit, and I don't wear suits. I don't have a suit. I'm not going to wear a suit, and I just don't see the point. Why? Got to wear your tie. Why? It covers your buttons. So what? Why wear a suit?
Buttons?
Look, I get it if there's like a kind of, you're trying to look nice, but I don't think we're in that period anymore where people need to put on pretense. But you look at judges and their robes and everything's, proper, and doctors in their lab coats. And I'm just like, dude, I don't care for any of that. It doesn't prove anything to me. Any random dude can put on a suit and claim to be someone important. It doesn't fly. I guess for a random person, it might. For me, it doesn't do anything. You come to me wearing a suit, means nothing to me at all.
Badges are like that too. I don't like that you put a little marker on your shirt and all of a sudden you're supposed to have some control over me. Like, you better be a better person than me if you want some control over me.
Well, that's a different question. I mean, that we're talking about policing.
I'm not saying the
authority.
institution's a problem, but I'm saying the fact that they get to just put a badge on and all of a sudden that gives them power. It's like putting on a suit and you think that they're more valuable now because they're wearing a suit. I don't care what you're wearing.
Well, no, I think it's their job that grants them certain, authority.
It's really the gun that gives them the authority.
Of course.
No. It's the gun control combined with the monopoly on violence from the state.
Yeah, the state is a gun.
Gun plus
So
backup.
it's the fact that they have many guns, select fire guns, people with armor and shields, and you're not allowed to have any of those things, and they'll tell you what to do, and you better do it or else.
Yeah, but they
So-
come with the badge, and it's like, even if you don't see the gun, it's just the threat of the gun. They're like, this badge means that I have authority.
The costume is still very
Get out of my
compelling.
face.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say that
Well, let's-
because I respect authority right now, but I'm borderline, man.
Well, let's have
Right on.
let's have a little bit of fun here. So I still have this political compass memes thing pulled up. For those that aren't familiar, the political compass is the authoritarian spectrum on the top, the libertarian spectrum on the bottom. Then you have the left spectrum and the right spectrum, and you can be any portion of it. So in this comic where they're talking about me and Vosh, Vosh is he's a leftist, a general leftist, which means he's authoritarian and libertarian to a certain degree, whereas they view me as just libertarian right. But a lot of people started responding saying Tim Pool is lib center, not lib right. What does any of this mean? What does lib right mean? What is lib right? What is lib left? I said this before, and Political Compass memes took something from one of my videos and put it on and posted it to their Reddit, and it like reached the top of their page where I said, the libertarian left spectrum is not the authoritarian woke crowd that demands you adhere to trigger words and warnings and that you honor pronouns. That's authoritarianism. That's adhere to our cult or else. Lib left is the people who are like, we agree with a cooperative system like hippies living on a farm. And one hippie walks in and says, hey man, I just grew a bunch of watermelons. Would you like to share it with me? No problem, dude. And you know what? I'm going to do the dishes because you helped with the watermelons. There's no transaction. It's all cooperative. Whereas, you know, the lib right spectrum would be like, I have grown these watermelons, $5. And the other guy says, wonderful, it's an excellent price, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you $4 and I'll trade you this satchel of beans. That's more lib right, I suppose. But for some reason, whenever it comes to the political spectrum, people keep pushing the lie that the libertarian left is woke. Yo, woke people are crazy authoritarian. They tell you to adhere to their cause or else.
Yeah.
But that strain does run in the Libertarian Party, does it not?
What strain?
Of wokeness. Like there is an
Does
infection
it?
of wokeness in the Libertarian Party.
But that's the Libertarian Party's
The
lib
party
right.
itself, yeah.
I don't know what the Libertarian Party is because they're like open borders.
Yeah.
Except
Right.
for the Mises
So woke.
Caucus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know
except
what's
for
going
them.
on with those guys.
Yeah.
Lib is an interesting word because I thought you meant liberal left. I was like,
Libertarian.
left means liberal, but it's libertarian.
Left doesn't mean liberal.
Liberal and conservative.
I think you got to understand that like,
None of it means anything to me, man.
none of
make
it
it up
means
as we
anything
go.
to anybody, to be honest. So left and right have their root in the French Revolution. The people sitting on the left, people sitting on the right. Nowadays, it doesn't mean anything. You know, so you'll get these like like Vosh, for instance, called me a conservative. Like, I don't think you know what a conservative is, if that's what you think. The political factions in this country are so it's so fractured that on the surface people can't see anyone else's political ideologies. The way I describe it is, if imagine you're in a big field. This literally happened in Boston, and there's a left side of the field and a right side of the field. If you're standing on the left and you look towards the right side, you'll see this big mass of people. One guy's got a Confederate flag, one guy's got a Trump flag, one guy's got an American flag, and one guy's got a Nazi flag. And you go, man, look at all of those crazy people over there. But if you actually were to take an overhead view, you'd see the American flag guy is actually close to the middle of the field. The Nazi guy is all the way in the far fringe end. No one wants to talk to him. But when you're looking at it from one perspective, one angle, all you'll see is the flags next to each other because they're actually spaced far apart. And that's exactly what's happening. So for a lot of people on the right, they look to their left and they see a big mass of people. They're actually relatively far away from each other. The same is true for the left. However, the left having control of cultural institutions, it's more of a mainstream corporate press perspective. Anyone to the left of Mao is far right, alt-right, or whatever. And you end up with people like Vosh saying, well, Tim Pool is a conservative and by necessity a racist. And it's just like, bro, I'm not a conservative.
I thought in addition to politics being so fractured and challenging to locate who's where and who identifies as what, you get like, I think it was libs of TikTok or somebody, they'd show like one person would be like, I'm not touching that vaccine that Trump's rushing out. And then when Biden gets in office, they're like, definitely do what the president says because I love him. And it's like, that is less political spectrum, more cult worship. If you're a cult worshiper, you just fly all over the political spectrum because you don't have any value, real like personal value. You just do
That
it.
was probably
Right.
Defiant Else.
Yes.
Defiant
Yeah.
Else, one of my favorite
Just
Twitter
nuked,
accounts.
Yeah.
You know, I like that explanation because when you kind of get more into like the cultish type of lane, you know, when you deal with cults, like real cults, right? Like people that have like these insane religious beliefs. Most of the time, these people don't even realize what they're actually doing or what they're believing. They've just been told what to believe. They've been told what to do. They've been told what their actions should be. And there's really no like root to their doctrine. It's just, this is what the hive mind has taught me. This is what the leader has taught me. This is what everyone else around me and is on the same wavelength. And so when we gravitate towards one thing, it doesn't have to make sense. It's just what we're all doing at the time. When we gravitate toward another thing, it doesn't have to make sense. We just do it because that's what we need to do. And that's why I think when people watch this, you look at the political spectrum, and predominantly on the far left, none of it makes sense. It's just like this cultish mentality where we go from one thing to the other, and it's not educational. There's nothing about it that's intellectual. It's just all over the place. It's emotional. It's just one thing to the other. And I think that type of thinking, I think what Ian is saying, is I totally agree with him, because that's exactly how cult mind thinking works.
The problem with conservatives, people on the right, is that like any person, they assume that everyone else has the same perspective as they do, but maybe a lack of knowledge or something like that. And so what they do, people do this, they project how they think and feel on other people. And then they say, if I know this, you certainly know it. That means you're a liar. Mm-hmm. What they don't understand is that the left is an amorphous blob. It is typically, the establishment left, and many of the leftists who support them, they're authoritarians, they're cult-like, and they have no real principles or causes behind them other than being a part of the hive. So the other day, before we were getting on the show, I was talking with Daniel Turner, who we've had on periodically. He was on yesterday. And I said that abortion is a strong moral issue for the right, and it is not for the left. And we argued about it. He said, no, you are wrong. The left will absolutely protest for abortion. And I said, they'll protest for anything, and they don't know what they're protesting for. You go out to the March for Our Lives, and they can't even tell you what a caliber is. They'll be like, well, I think we should ban 28 caliber Chinese guns. I'm like, bro, you just watched The Dark Knight? Because I was just watching the other night. I don't know if you saw that scene where Harvey Dent grabs the gun. He's like, 28 caliber. It's like, that's not a thing. But these people, they have no idea what they're talking about. These guys in Hollywood make a movie and they make up a number that makes no sense. Bro, you couldn't have asked somebody, just one person. So what I said was, listen, like abortion is a good example of a strong moral issue versus a cult. Strong moral issue for the right and the pro-life crowd is that they view abortion as literal murder. And I think Louis C.K. had a bit about this where he's like, man, if I thought people were killing babies, I'd be pissed off too. So you ask someone who's pro-life, how do they feel about this? And they'll be like, it's literal murder. You ask someone on the left how they feel about it, and they'll say, it's like flushing garbage down the toilet. Is there any point where a regular person in this country, if you saw someone about to flush a wadded up piece of garbage into a toilet, would you go, no?
Only if there was a septic system.
And try and stop them.
Yeah, if it was in a septic system, I'd be like, hold on. Is it biodegradable? Yeah. Is that toilet paper or human waste only?
What if you saw someone about to murder a baby? 99.99999% of people would scream and be like, that's a horrifying sight to behold. But if the left doesn't view it as such, they don't care about it. Mm-hmm. So all you got to do is look at the Kavanaugh protests when they're banging on the door of the Supreme Court, screaming, claiming they're worried about Roe v. Wade. No, they're not. Look, I get it. They're pro-choice. They are. But on a scale of 1 to 10, they're in terms of it being a strong moral issue, a 10 is a strong moral issue and a 1 is, it's an issue. For the pro-life crowd, it's like a 4, maybe a 3. And for the pro-choice crowd, it's like a 4 or a 3. And for the pro-life crowd, it's like a 9 or a 10. Like killing another human being is wrong. So when I see these people marching out in the streets, screaming at the top of their lungs, it's fascinating to me because most of them don't actually care all that much about what this is. And then you look at the right and they care substantially more, but they're not even out protesting. I mean, March for Life is actually really, really large, but the right is substantially less likely to protest for these issues. Don't ask me why, but I think, the point I'm trying to get to is I've been to many left protests. They could not tell you what it was about. They can't. And I understand you go to some of these right-wing rallies and they'll give you a bunch of disparate answers. It's really easy to find stupid people. I've been to many right-wing rallies. I went around in 2015 and 16 to all the Trump rallies when he was running, and I got answers from everybody. I remember I was in Janesville, Wisconsin. I walked with some young guys, and they're talking. I'm like, hey, you mind if I ask you some questions? Like, what are you here for? Why are you supporting Trump? And they were like in their early 20s, and they were like, political correctness, man, it's really, really bad. They said what we're seeing with our culture in terms of canceling people, and this is like 2015, 16. They're like, in terms of taking over movies and games and just making this weird, creepy politics stuff, we need someone who's going to speak their mind and set that cultural standard that you can be offensive. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, I understand that. I talked to, in Janesville again, I talked to an older guy, and he's like, look, my factory shut down. They shipped it overseas, and Donald Trump, he's gonna be bringing it back. You know, he wants to bring these jobs back. I go to these left-wing protests and rallies. Nothing. Trump's a fascist. Trump's a fascist. We got to stop fascism. And I'm like, is there something you think Hillary Clinton's going to bring to the table? No. Truth be told, the Bernie Sanders people had demands, and it was very similar to the Trump supporter demands. A lot of the Bernie people I talked to were like, you know, not the violent ones, you know, the actual rally people. They were like, he's talking about healthcare, he's talking about college, and he's talking about union workers. I like all these things. And I'm like, okay, that I understand. And then Bernie was just like, I'd rather have $1 million and 4 houses. How many houses does he have? 3?
Yeah, it's 3.
I think
Three
it's 3.
houses?
Yeah.
That's a lot of houses.
Nice
for
houses
one
too.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, maybe you could sell a book and you could be a millionaire too, or whatever. So,
well, it kind of, just to pivot very briefly back off of that to something that Ian was saying earlier, it does come down to clarity of message when it comes to activism and advocacy. And I saw it like because there were a lot of, S-lib takes, crap lib takes on Twitter about the ish lib takes about the trucker protest. And it was driving me crazy because there was a clear distinction, because people were saying like, oh, well, I'm sure you're okay with the BLM protests then. But there was such a distinction there that I thought was so obvious, at least it was to me. BLM was out there saying, people were saying, what do you want, BLM? And they were saying, we have to reimagine structures of society. We have to dismantle and disembowel and take apart and drag down and stop systemic racism. And it sounds like you're talking to a religious zealot. It makes no sense. You ask a trucker what the problem is, stop the mandates. Period. I mean, yes, at a larger level, they're advocating for freedom, but that is a very clear message. That's a very clear ask, and that's what they're after. Stop the mandates. And, you got the Canadian government that's pivoting. You've got them sending out their own state media just saying, we heard that they might be taking away your kids. I don't know if that's going to happen. They're just saying it could. And you see these truckers are getting really upset. There was that one video that we covered. This guy was saying, are you saying they're going to take away our kids? They're like, oh, I'm not saying that. It's just something I heard, So they're trying all these tactics to kind of break down this very clear protest that's just asking for the mandates to be lifted so that these people can feel like they have some sense of freedom.
So you heard that the government's threatening to take away the children of the protesters?
State media, CBC, Canada Broadcasting, whatever. They sent a reporter out on the ground, and this reporter was basically just like, we've heard that potentially your children could be in danger for being involved in this. And one of these truckers got really upset, and he's just like, wait a second, what did you hear? Because the trucker knows that the media in Canada basically represents the federal government. And he got really upset, and he said, what did you hear? What are you talking about? You're saying that my teenage children that are with me right now are in danger of being taken away by the government? And they were just like, well, I'm not saying that. I don't know what's going to happen. That's just what I heard. That's just one example of the games that the media is playing in Canada. To try to break down this protest that has very clear demands, unlike the BLM protests, which had abstract, cosmological demands that can't be met in reality. So I think that there's a major distinction there. Clear messaging versus abstract messaging.
Yeah, the abstract messaging is just cult.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
They don't know what they're fighting for.
Yep.
That's exactly
They're
right.
banging on the doors of the Supreme Court. They're screaming, and they don't know for what reason.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the very least, not a particularly strong issue. I think most of these protests are just bored virtue signals. It's young people who are like, what are we doing today? And it's like, are you going to come to the protest? Sure, I guess.
Oh, yeah. The BLM riots was like, let's get out of the house. COVID's got us all locked up. We have a chance to take our masks off and go crazy. Mm-hmm. It's like, let's party, man. Burning Man got canceled. That's what that was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coachella got canceled.
We'll have our own. Mm-hmm. And that's it. It takes a lot to see the right come out and protest, and they've started doing it more and more, and it's effective. And it shows you that the political establishment has used protest to their advantage for some time now. It shows you that BLM is effectively an apparatus of the state. Mm-hmm. When they go out and they riot and they get funding for it, it's fine. When Kamala Harris uses GoFundMe or whatever to raise money for people who are criminals, that's all fine. When truckers of their own volition say honk honk, terrorism, freeze their bank accounts, shut them down, take their kids, maybe even put guns or something. Who knows what they're going to do? Enact emergency powers never before used. Wow.
What's crazy about the BLM stuff too is like, not only did they do worse like in 2020, but that's actually when like the lockdowns were. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that was actually during the time of where there was a lot of question marks around COVID and we didn't have that much information. And it was like, that's when things were locked down and the federal government was more loose with them. But here we are 2 years later, things are starting to loosen up. But it's as if we were in 2020 and this just started. That's how aggressive they are. Like, no, you cannot. You have to get vaccinated. No, we have to do this because it's going to kill everybody. You see what I'm saying? Like that contrast when you make it is it's crazy.
Yeah, when England basically repeals all their mandates. I mean, England's back to base zero now. It's as if I believe they're like pre-pandemic situation, like as if it's just an open society now. But then for Canada, who's one of the part of the Commonwealth, to not, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, what are they waiting for? What are they waiting for?
But during the pandemic, BLM could walk around and riot and do whatever they want.
As long as they don't step on federal property. If they went to the White House, BLM, we'd see thousands of them in prison right now.
That is not true because they actually did go to the White House and they broke windows and they set the church on fire. And they also went to some of the federal courthouses in I think it was Portland, and they set the thing on fire. They were tearing down the fences around it. People had to evacuate. So they did set foot on federal land, and Trump received a lot. Tom Cotton, if you'll recall, he, the editorial director at the newspaper, fill in the blank, I don't remember which one it was, resigned because of Tom Cotton's editorial calling for federal intervention in these mobs and riots that were going on. And this is something that Act Blue and Kamala Harris were supporting at the time. That was fine. That was great. Ocasio-Cortez was saying that this is designed to make you uncomfortable. Now it's happening in Ottawa. These people are terrorists. This is a nationwide insurrection. QAnon is running rampant in the streets. It's mind-boggling to watch, and I really hope it red pills a bunch of people.
But Lydia, they were wearing masks, so it was okay.
Oh yes, it's fine. Yeah, that's
it was okay.
That
It was
makes it
all right.
better. Yeah, okay.
Makes it all
Friends,
better.
we've got a breaking news from Project Veritas.
Oh boy.
Nice.
Okay.
Now
Here we go.
this story actually came out right around the time we went live. This is crazy stuff. Project Veritas has released Expose FDA Part 1. FDA Executive Officer on Hidden Camera reveals future COVID policy. Quote, Biden wants to inoculate as many people as possible, have to get an annual shot. They say, FDA Executive Officer Christopher Cole inadvertently revealed that his agency will eventually announce that annual COVID-19 vaccinations will become policy. Cole is an executive officer heading up the agency's countermeasures initiatives, which plays a critical role in ensuring that drugs, vaccines, and other measures to counter infectious disease and viruses are safe. He made the revelations on hidden camera to an undercover reporter. Cole indicates that annual COVID-19 shots isn't probable, but certain. When pushed on how he knows an annual shot will become policy, Cole states, just from everything I've heard, the FDA are not going to not approve it. The footage, which is part of a 2-part series on the FDA, also contains sound bites from Cole about the financial incentives pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer have to get the vaccine approved, saying, quote, it'll be recurring fountain of revenue. It might not be that much initially, but it'll recurring if they can. If they can get every person required at an annual vaccine, that is a recurring return of money going into their company. Quote, they're all approved under an emergency just because it's not as impactful as some other approvals. Really an emergency for kids. So there's a lot more to this. I've seen a little bit of it. But it seems this guy, at least, believes get your yearly COVID shot.
Recurring fountain of revenue.
Monetizing your body with inoculations.
Dude.
Medical subscription services.
Biden wants to inoculate everyone. Is that what that guy said? Everyone?
No, Biden has said he has said that himself. I forget which press conference it was, but his solution to this COVID problem was we have to vaccinate everyone in this country, and then we have to vaccinate the rest of the world. That was his way out of this.
What's the word
I'm
inoculate?
struggling to find the exact quote from
I remember
Biden,
that.
but
I remember that.
He did say that,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
Thanks for doing a little sanity check on me there. Because
I remember that conference.
Yeah, no, he said
I think
that out loud.
was his 1 year, I think. But I
That
do
sounds
remember
about
Biden
right.
saying that.
Yeah, no, he said it. That's his goal. That's how he thinks the virus gets shut down.
Look up the definition of the word inoculate and think that Joe Biden wants to do this to you. It's to implant microorganisms or infectious material into a culture medium. to introduce a serum, vaccine, or antigenic substance into the body of a person.
Oh, you say it like that.
Yeah, this third one is to implant microorganisms or infection. I mean, that's basically, you put a little bit of dangerous stuff in the body, so it jacks up an immune response, and then you become immune over time is the idea. But forcing it on people, top-down medicine, it's crazy.
What did it say?
Doesn't work.
Reoccurring revenue? Is that what?
Yeah.
Is that what he said? There it is.
A fountain.
It'll literally
Fountain of
monetize your
recurring
body. The
Yeah.
experimental
Subscription service.
Yes.
Man. You gotta look. These pharmaceutical companies pay big for sponsoring these big corporate media. They spend a lot of money lobbying. They make a lot of contributions.
How many pharmaceutical commercials ran on the Super Bowl? Did you guys get a number?
Google
I
it.
don't know. Yeah,
No
I'm
idea.
curious now.
I know that all these big media companies are brought to you by Pfizer because I saw that
That's right.
supercut.
Brought to you. That's a great supercut. In the meantime, I want to say, so the old tried phrase is all roads lead to Rome. I wonder if the phrase for our culture that survives for centuries is all roads lead to Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that right?
Through Alex Jones.
Well, there's
Through Alex
also,
Jones. I love that.
Yes.
There was that story the other day about the BLM activist who tried assassinating the Democrat
Yep.
mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And people were pointing out that Alex Jones had said several months ago that there's going to be attacks on Democrats to justify gun control and harsh measures against the people. I got to say, if you throw spaghetti at enough clocks, eventually they'll tell you the right time or
Yeah.
whatever.
Twice
the
a day,
saying is.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Throw spaghetti. No, you throw spaghetti at a bunch of clocks, and eventually some of them will just splatter into the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're making predictions on everything, eventually people can be like,
Theoretically,
hey,
I think if a million monkeys have a million typewriters, they'll eventually write Hamlet.
Yeah,
Right.
as the saying
Yeah.
goes, I don't
Imagine
know
if
about a
that was like
million.
a
You might
white
need
guy.
more than that.
Hamlet?
No, that did that to that demo. It was a mayor.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
BLM?
Yeah.
Imagine if that
mayoral,
was
mayoral candidate.
Yes.
mayoral candidate. Imagine if that was a white guy that did something like that.
That story's crazy, by the way, too.
Yeah.
I watched a press conference. Apparently, he walked in, and they're like, "Can we help you?" And he pulled the gun out from a few feet away and fired and missed.
Wow.
It's funny because I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying, "I call BS. How did he miss?" And I'm like, that sounds like
Yeah,
someone
it's
who's never
easy.
fired a
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
fired a gun.
Handgun? Yes.
Moving
Very
It's
target.
like the Waukesha stuff. Just gets
not a
swept
moving
right
target,
under,
it's that-
right under the rug.
Did the guy see? Was he looking him in the eyes? Like, was the guy able to?
I don't. He said that the guy walked in and just pulled a gun, pointed it. But people who think you can't miss have clearly never fired a handgun.
Very easy to miss the handgun. Very easy.
People when they fire, when they squeeze their hand, they move the gun in certain ways. They don't
Yeah.
realize it. And so what ends up happening is they usually point left or right, or if you're right-handed, you'll point left and down or something like that. At least that's what I was told when I went to the range the first time, and
That's
they're
what happened to me,
telling me
yeah.
how to shoot properly. But yeah, I think it's just getting crazy out there for a variety of reasons. When you have these disparate factions of people that are all extreme, no cohesion, just eventually.
Well, I am concerned because there does seem to be a shortage of actual right-wing terrorism, which means that you're going to need to find a way to meet the demand. You know what I mean? Like, if people aren't being violent, that's what makes me think that this cache of guns in Canada might possibly be some kind of really truly might be a bad actor trying to make them look bad, trying to plant this on them and make it look like they're trying to plan some kind of violent coup or something.
This is a well-known guy. I mean,
Yeah.
this is an activist who did this.
Could you imagine living?
Well, okay, he's been arrested for
Yeah,
it.
the BLM guy.
Considering they were there and they watched him do it, I think they got the right guy. But
Rest assured, Lydia, the FBI is on that.
Oh, yeah, I
yeah,
know,
they're
I
on
know,
it. They're on
yeah.
it. They're working on it really hard. It
Wonderful.
happened well in Michigan. You know, they had
Yeah.
outstanding results.
Yep.
The right-wing terrorism will happen.
Yeah,
What if your
well,
life
make it
was
happen.
there's nothing bad going on right now? Why? What's wrong with reality? That something we can't figure out what's wrong. Like something's bad. I have a bad feeling. I can't see anything wrong. So they go out like this is the mentality. If something's not wrong, then something must be wrong because life is bad. Like these people live to their law enforcement. They go around looking for people breaking laws, and if the people aren't breaking laws, then they make up new ways to get them.
Yeah.
I think it's a good strategy to easily emotionally manipulate a lot of people very quickly. Because if you could bring unity with like millions of people with a centralized enemy, I think that's essentially what Trump was. You could really get a lot of people unified for a specific cause. And I think you see this happen throughout history all the time where there's a common enemy that the people all have. And I think the far left does a really good job at doing this. They do a really good job at demonizing their opponents. They do a really good job at slandering them and painting them as these are the people that are going to destroy your life. The white supremacist, the neo-Nazi. It's always this fear. That's why everything's a phobia. Everything is a phobia. Homophobia, Islamophobia. They just slap phobia to it.
Yeah.
And we unify the entire base, and they're out there busting people's doors down. It works.
I like that phobia. If you don't like a sport, you're soccer phobic.
Phobic. Yeah.
Everything's a phobia.
You don't like soccer? Soccer phobic.
Fear is very powerful. Fear
You
is
see
a
what they
very
did
powerful
with,
apparatus.
you see what they
to
did
control
with Dave Chappelle? He was in opposition to this construction that was going to be going on in his town. So they framed it as though he opposed affordable housing. Because it's always a dirty, manipulative game. They didn't ask him why he was in opposition to it. They just said, this proposal would include affordable housing. Dave Chappelle threatens to pull millions of dollars out of town in opposition to affordable housing.
I've covered enough of those
lies, man.
eye-melting, brain-numbing city council meetings to know that the affordable housing that these city councils advocate for is almost always corrupt. It never pans out. It is all about money. It's all about corrupt politicians. I mean, I covered Anaheim. there's like a super corrupt problem in Anaheim because Disney owns Anaheim. But and that's how these deals go down. I mean, obviously, Dave Chappelle's no moron. Like, he's a sharp guy. He probably saw right through the corruption and right through the nonsense, and he went there and is just like, I don't support this. And they panicked, and then they had to smear him.
So does Disney actually literally own the city of Anaheim?
They do through backdoor deals because without Disney and without Angel Stadium, Anaheim is not a city. It's like a third world town. So, basically, the city council of Anaheim is never going to do anything that's not in Disney's best interest, which also puts them in the CCP's pocket.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That checks out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, things are going good.
Deep
Huh?
Yeah. Everything's going well.
Sorry, I just wanted to bring some good news from California.
Yeah, great.
Sunny
Thanks,
California.
Maybe let California go its own way, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's supposedly going to
Ocean.
slip down, isn't it? Slip up into Canada at some point.
Canada?
Go
Hear
to
that,
the
Canada?
ocean. Yeah, watch out.
It's coming for you.
You
To
know,
you.
when the San Andreas fault
Yes.
Yeah,
goes
apparently
off,
it's
breaks
slipping.
off.
California's
Goodbye.
sliding up. They thought it was going to fall off and disappear,
Yes,
but I think it's
please.
technically sliding up.
Oh,
Maybe
man.
something like that. I don't know.
and
if
then
it's
it'll go
something
right below Alaska and then connect the
Oh,
connect
yeah,
that
that'd be
corridor
good.
up.
like that. Land bridge.
You know, I think if California did move that far north, though, everything about California would change overnight because the people who live there wouldn't be able to handle the harsh
It'd
realities
sober
of
Not
up.
at all.
Yeah.
the
No.
cold tundra. And
That's one of the things
snow.
that's so awesome about the protests in Canada. The truckers is they can just handle the
Heck
cold,
yeah.
man. You saw on
Yeah.
Wall Street, everybody turned in late November or mid-November, whenever it was.
There,
It was cold.
there was a funny post where some woman tweeted, you know, you should go out there and spray water on their handles and freeze them out. And someone was like, to think that Canadian truckers don't know how to handle ice just shows exactly what's wrong with these urban, city urban liberal types. Like, yeah, if there's anyone I would ask for advice in terms of ice on my car, it'd be a Canadian trucker.
Seriously.
Like, you guys are in the cold and you drive.
Yeah.
Know anything I don't know about tips and tricks about getting the ice off the car and opening it up? They'd be like, oh, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably happened to you guys. Winter comes around, your car door freezes shut, you can't open it. How do you get in? Gotta get the remote start, turn the heat on, right? That's the secret.
I was
That
looking
is
for
secret.
how many pharmaceutical commercials they ran during the Super Bowl. I cannot find this, but if anyone out there, if you guys know, feel free to super chat it or leave it in the comments if you have some ideas or links or something, because I'd like to find out. I have a feeling there were more than last year.
I'm sure that's non-zero.
Let's talk about the absurdity that is Hollywood and California and Alec Baldwin.
Oh boy.
We got the story from Timcast.com. Cinematographer's family files wrongful death suit against Alec Baldwin. The Santa Fe Sheriff's Office is still investigating the October 2021 on-set fatality. But we have this story from the New York Post. Alec Baldwin sued by the family of Helena Hutchins. They've released a video. It's kind of creepy. It is a CGI video. I can only show some of it because YouTube actually will probably shut us down if I show you, even though it's like simulated. Whatever, man. It is what it is. But I can, I can play a decent amount of it. So let's play some of this video. So this is important in understanding the story about Alec Baldwin and the shooting of Helena Hutchins. Let me slow down and preface this real quick for those that are not familiar with exactly what this is. Alec Baldwin was on the filming set of a movie called Rust. He shot a cinematographer. At first, it was declared a misfire. It was an accident. We started to get more and more details, and it turns out that based on the news and the information that came out, it sounds much more like Alec Baldwin intentionally murdered this woman. At least a lot of people refuse to believe it. I certainly think it's more probable than an accident because Alec Baldwin had a single action revolver. You had to pull the hammer back. You had to pull the trigger to fire it. It was loaded with live rounds. It was given to him by someone who was not the on-set armorer. We had Nick Searcy on the show who had worked with that armorer before and said she was great. So all of this just keeps coming back to There's no way there's an accident. But let me give you that one very, very important detail before I show you this clip. Alec Baldwin claims that after he shot this woman, he didn't know she was hit for 45 minutes. If you're standing in front of someone and you point a gun at them, pull the hammer back, pull the trigger. He claims he didn't pull the trigger. But you pull the hammer back and it goes off. And then they go, and they collapse and 2 people fall down. What do? Did Alec Baldwin just go, all right, and walk away?
Apparently.
Cut.
Yep.
Walk away.
All right, everybody.
Cut.
And they're screaming. People are screaming. She's dying. And he's just like, I didn't see anything.
Bye.
Man,
Makes
that
no sense.
cinematographer acts good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He thought she was acting.
Are they filming her? Is she part of this?
I
So here,
guess.
let me play this clip now to show you some of the context around here. So here's the building. The reason why I think this is important to go through is because a lot of people are trying to imagine in their head what it was like when this woman was shot. And you can see here, it's all CGI, by the way. This is what the building looks like. All right, let's play a little bit because now they're going to take us inside the building. It's only about a minute long, this video. All right, so there's the building. We are now going inside. Oh, I think was that actually a photograph? Hold on.
Oh, cool.
The first
I-
was.
yeah, so this is an
wow.
actual.
It switches.
Nice.
Right.
Cool, yeah.
Is that it looks.
Yeah,
And then it switches to
Right.
CGI.
There you go.
Really
All right,
well
then we
done.
go inside, and this is what it looks like inside this church on the set of this film. Alec Baldwin is handed the gun by the, I guess, associate director. I don't know.
Assistant director.
Assistant director. And then he sits down. He's got the gun in his holster, and there he is. And I think now they're going to pan around, and you can now see they're showing you where the cinematographer was, and where the other director, right?
Yeah.
And the camera.
And I don't know who those other 2 people are. They weren't named.
Mm-hmm.
Crew, yeah.
So here's what's interesting. I didn't realize this. How far away he was from her and the crowd, and that he pointed the gun straight at her and not the camera. Because when we had first talked about the story, I was like, why would he point the gun straight at the camera? And people were like, oh, maybe it was to get that shot or whatever. She's off to his left of the camera. He points it straight at her and he fires and he killed her.
He definitely killed her.
So you were arguing with me about this initially. That you can't say he killed her.
Well, I don't know if I would call it murder. The intention is unknown. He definitely pointed the gun at the woman, pulled the trigger, and killed her. Whether or not he intended to, I don't know. But I don't think that really is what this is all about right now. I mean,
Look,
that's up for the courts to decide.
Let me show you this clip. All right, we're not going to actually show it because YouTube would get mad at us. But he
Look at that. 5 feet away from her. Or whatever it was.
and then he pulls the hammer back and he shoots her.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing. I'm going to skip over the part where she actually gets hit because that's, and you can see people rushing over to help her. And again, CGI rendering of what happened. This is not actual video evidence. Where did Alec Baldwin go? There's no other exit to this building.
Ditched
And he
out.
said for 45 minutes he didn't know that she got shot with a real bullet. So he's like, I thought she fainted or something. Bro,
No.
if you point a gun at someone and you pull the hammer back and it goes bang and then someone screams and collapses, why would you assume they must have fainted?
He's a weak mind,
Bro,
and he wasn't
you
able
point-
to accept what just
No,
happened to him. He
no,
panicked.
dude.
It was like shock. It's like what
Had
happens when
to
a
have
soldier
been.
goes crazy in the
No.
trench. He knew he killed her. He was just shocked,
No, Ian, you might as well believe in aliens.
or he's just blatantly lying.
You might as well believe, if you're going to tell me that Alec Baldwin pointed a gun at a person from like 5 feet away, pulled the hammer back, it went off in his hand, he felt the recoil. The recoil of a live round is different from the recoil of a blank. And then the woman screams, and the guy behind her screams as well, at least they do in this video. And then people run over to help, and he goes, must have fainted, and then gets up and walks off. Sorry, I would rather believe that aliens took over his mind or the mind control device. That seems more plausible to me than he was like, I didn't realize I had just shot them when I pointed a gun and pulled the hammer back and it fired. Nah, he knew what he did. That's why I keep hearing the story and I'm like, why would you assume anything other than he put a bullet in the gun and he shot her?
Who put the bullet in the gun? That one I wonder. That I
Hold
don't
on,
know.
bro. If you're going to tell me that it was the assistant director or someone else who put the bullet in the gun, Alec Baldwin feeling the recoil of that live bullet, having trained with firearms, would have been like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
And then when she collapsed and screamed, he would have been like, what happened?
Except he knew my life is over, my career is over, and it all went through his head immediately when he pulled
Nope.
the trigger and was like, "It's too much for my brain." I mean, that's a possibility.
that's
I don't
insane,
know if
dude.
that really happened.
Nah,
but people
dude.
are weak,
'Cause
man.
didn't
People
he-
go crazy.
No.
in
What you don't
stress sometimes.
understand is when someone is in a shocked moment, they don't have complicated thoughts. They have panicked thoughts. And if Alec Baldwin, so you guys ever see Sherlock Holmes? You ever see a Game of Shadows?
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.?
No.
So good. I love it. So they're trying to find out. There's a guy who's got surgery to look like an ambassador. He's trying to trigger a world war. And so, he's with Watson and Watson's in the room. And they're like, how do we find someone who's pretending to be someone else? And then Sherlock says, or I think it's Watson who's like, yeah, Sherlock's playing chess with Moriarty. And Watson's like, do something shocking because they're trying so hard to maintain a facade, they won't react properly to a shock. And so what he does is he smacks the tray with champagne on it. The champagne shatters and everyone in the room goes, oh, but the one guy in disguise doesn't flinch because in his mind, he's desperately trying to maintain his persona. So when the shock happens, he doesn't respond properly like everybody else. So that's when I hear this story, when Alec Baldwin himself, he lied about everything. He was like, she was a friend. Then he said, I didn't know her. I never met her before. It's like, this guy's full of it. The idea that he pointed the gun, pulled the hammer back, it went off in his hand. First, I got so many questions. The recoil of a live bullet compared to the blank? He knew. He was holding it. It went off in his hand. The woman screams and falls down. It severed her spinal cord. And he's like, I didn't realize it happened. And what does he do? Get up and walk away?
Yeah, that's BS, bro. Listen,
dude, he did it.
I don't know if this is the same, but I watched Kyle Rittenhouse shoot somebody and kill them in self-defense. And I didn't pull that trigger, and that had an effect on me. Like, I will never forget that. I will never forget watching that. Like, the way that I felt, I saw it. Like, I watched life leave this guy's eyes, like, literally, like, on the floor. Like, so I just, like, when I hear, like, these gun stories, and I can't relate to this, like, police officers or people in the military that have actually shot people. I think that would be someone good to ask, But for me, like, I've watched that, and I don't see how Alec Baldwin could come out and just be like, "Oh, I thought she fainted." Like, that dude, no. There's no way, bro. Like, even if you're in shock, like, because I'm gonna be honest, like, when I watched that dude get killed, I was kind of like in a state of shock. Like, I was still collected. I knew what was going on, but I was still kind of like, I put it on Twitter, and I'm like, I just saw that. Like, I just saw that. Like, it was just like in my mind. Like, it couldn't leave my mind. Like, I just don't see how you could, like, shoot somebody and just and then go directly to, I just thought she fainted.
There's an indescribable feeling that I've talked about before when I see people who get mutilated or killed. And I don't have a word for it. I can't even really describe it. It's a weird feeling. I've seen a guy whose legs were turned to,
I know. I'm thinking the same thing.
I'm not going to get into it too much detail, but I've seen severe injuries, mutilation, and death. Mm-hmm. And there is a feeling that you get watching a body be carried away. Maybe it's just me. Maybe not everybody experiences it.
No, it's definitely not just you.
No, I know. And, I wonder if there would be a word for the feeling you get when you watch this, if more people had the shared experience of witnessing something like that.
Exorcism. I don't know.
But because
it's like the opposite of an exorcism.
Because most people don't actually experience that, there's no way to explain that word to someone who's never experienced that feeling. When I hear that Alec Baldwin pulled out a gun and it went off and shot and killed a woman, and that he just assumed she fainted, I'm like, this man is a liar and knew exactly what he did. Because, you know what? I'll put it this way. There's a video on Reddit right now. I love saying I'm on Reddit, right? And it's a little girl, and she's got a gun, and she's playing with it. And she puts the magazine in, and she pulls it back and chambers around. And then she's going like, ooh, and she's like playing with the trigger and laughing. And then she releases the magazine and smiles and laughs, and then bang, it goes off. Because there was a round in the chamber, and she goes, starts freaking out. When a live round is discharged from a gun, you don't just get up and go, must have fainted, and walk off.
Yeah.
You start freaking out.
The weird part is in this video, the after he fires, the video goes dark and then comes back up, and Alec's not there. Like, what happened? He must have just got up and walked out then.
Apparently, that's what happened.
And he was on the phone?
Yeah.
Immediately?
He left and he got on the phone, and he said, he's lying about all of it is the problem. He said, I didn't realize she got hit with a live bullet for 45 minutes. I thought she fainted. Something like that.
But what's bothering me so much about this whole story is motive.
Yeah, I don't.
What's
I don't
the
see
possible
one.
motive here?
What do you mean?
What's the motive for him shooting her?
The crew had been complaining the whole time. They had threatened to walk off set before. Alec Baldwin is a hothead who's gotten into fights with people in the past. I think he just settled a lawsuit. I could be wrong about that. And here he is. I think Viva Frei had a really great explanation about this. He was like, imagine you're Alec Baldwin, seasoned, famous, A-lister, wealthy, on a low-budget production. The industry is in distress. You've got COVID and all these rules. The crew is complaining nonstop. They're threatening to walk off. Then you get the cinematographer who's telling you what to do, but this is not the director. You don't take orders from her, but she won't stop nagging. See, Alec Baldwin said she was, what do you call her? Very like direct or something.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying about her that she was a friend and nice to work with. He said she was like forceful effectively. I think the motive is simple. He was pissed off. She was causing problems. She was jamming up the set. And the perfect opportunity to murder someone is in a movie set where you're supposed to have a gun. But hold on a minute. In this lawsuit, they're like, why wasn't he using a rubber gun? Why did he have a live single action revolver with real ammo in it, with a real bullet at least, when they were doing, it was like test filming. None of it makes sense. Unless, of course, Alec Baldwin was like, I am sick of this woman. She is causing problems for my movie set. And the easiest way to kill somebody is to say it's an on-set accident. Bang. None of his story makes sense. And I'll tell you this, I'd be willing to believe there was a conspiracy to commit murder between him and the assistant director before I believed this was an accident. For this to have been an accident, you have to believe in magical fairy tales. That the armorer, who Alec Baldwin knows is supposed to be the only one handling the weapon, didn't do it. That somehow live bullets got into it. That somehow Alec Baldwin forgot all of his training. That somehow Alec Baldwin, with a single action revolver, pulled the trigger back, and with his finger out of not on the trigger, it went off because that was testified to by the assistant director. So now you've got a broken sear on a single action revolver that he pulled the hammer back. His finger was off the trigger. It went off. He didn't realize a bullet was in it, despite 40 years plus of weapons training against someone he had every reason to be upset with. Nah, dude, get out of here with that. You know, I've been saying this from the beginning. I think he killed that woman. I'll rephrase that. I think it is substantially more likely he killed this woman on purpose than he killed her on accident. Suffice to say, he did kill her.
Yeah, negligent homicide, I think, at the very least. I have a very similar take on yours, except that I think he was just very angry with her and didn't like her and was fantasizing about killing her, and there happened to be a bullet in the gun.
That's ridiculous.
It just doesn't make sense that he would throw everything away just to try and sneak a death.
No, he's not throwing it away. Look at this. He's not even going to be.
It destroyed his career. It destroyed his life, dude. He's destroyed his life.
But yeah, under your scenario, he's such a psychopath, like a total psychopath, that he didn't run even the most minimal cost-benefit analysis for what he was about to do.
He's a hothead.
No, not a hothead. Like, anybody can be a little bit of a hothead. This guy must be a psychopath to make that absolutely poor cost-benefit analysis.
Or there was a potential for a lawsuit that was going to cost him more money.
So he shot her? I don't know. It still doesn't add up for me. I don't know.
That's true. I mean, he's getting sued now by several people.
I'm glad that it's going to court, and I hope that in
criminal charges?
Yeah.
We don't look.
They are.
I'll tell you this.
There are criminal charges?
No.
This is the first I've heard of it. I don't think so. This is a civil case right now.
There's no criminal charges.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Not yet.
I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
The point is, you're saying it's going to court. I'm saying you're saying it was a miscalculation. What do you mean? If he walked out up to this woman in the middle of New York Avenue and pulled out a gun and shot her, he'd be in prison.
Yeah, what if two 18-year-olds are sitting there, one picks up a gun and points it at the other one and shoots him and kills him? And it's like, I didn't know there was a bullet in it. Like,
we were acting for a movie. They'd be like, shut up, you're under arrest.
Yeah. If they had a camera on and they thought they were acting.
And then Alec Baldwin doesn't turn his phone over for how long?
That's kind of where I'm thinking is like, is it really far-fetched to believe that Alec Baldwin believes that he's above all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not far-fetched. I think he does.
You see what I'm saying? Like, do we really sound crazy saying, I think Alec Baldwin thinks he could publicly get away with murder?
You saw the sympathy crap videos he put out in the weeks following.
Look, let me just say, there's a potential for a motive in that we've heard that people were walking off set, that people were complaining, that she was part of the crew and the crew was really, really upset. And it's frustrating for this guy who thinks he's so big and he's an A-lister. She's not the director, but she's giving him orders and telling him what to do, and he's getting frustrated. Those make sense. But the reality is, there could be an infinite number of reasons for motive. Maybe he had an affair with her. Oh no, Hilaria's going to find out. Maybe it could be as simple as that. We don't know. Mm-hmm. The fact is, the story of how this went down, you'd have to be an absolute moron to believe the way they've described it. He was accidentally given the gun by the wrong person, even though he knows and has stated already in interviews it has to come from the armorer, but he let it come from the other guy instead. And then he took the gun, didn't check it, even though he knows you're supposed to check the gun. It's supposed to be displayed for you. He's stated all of those things. He's the one who said, you're handed a gun and they open it up, they explain it to you, and then, you know, if you fiddle with it in any way, so they're like, why didn't you check it? Well, if I did check it, they'd take it away from me. That makes no sense. Like, it's an obvious lie. But let me just make it simple for everybody. Go out to a shooting range, all right? Talk to an instructor, have them teach you and bring some blanks and fire a blank, and then fire, you know, what was the caliber of the gun? Wasn't a 45, was it?
I don't know.
I don't know what it was.
I don't recall.
But just
I'll get a difference of the blank and the real bullet, the feel.
You're going to be like, wow, this one's obviously the blank and this one's obviously the real gun.
So I do
The real
think it
bullet.
was a murder just because he just shot her and apparently had good enough aim, because we just saw in Louisville, how it's pronounced, this guy
Louisville.
attempted to he attempted to shoot somebody really close range and still ended up missing him. For Alec Baldwin to hit this lady dead to rights, that looks
Right?
incredibly intentional.
And think about it. It was straight in the center of her
Yeah,
chest so that it hit her
dude.
spine, too.
Yeah, that's intense.
And went
Same.
through and hit
Let's-
the
let-
director.
Yeah, he shot
let's-
2 people.
Yeah.
No, but check this out. It went straight through the center of her chest and through her spine.
That's spot
I mean,
on.
So this
Center
is
mass.
we're talking about winning a lot, like winning 3 lotteries in a row, week
Yeah.
after week after week. That he had the wrong gun, he wasn't supposed to be using, that he wasn't supposed to point it at her, that there wasn't supposed to be a bullet in it, that his finger was off the trigger and he pulled the hammer back, but the hammer went off anyway, and then the bullet, it missed, but it went perfectly into the center of her chest
No
and ripped her
way.
spine apart. Then he said, I didn't realize I hit her, and got up and walks away.
BS.
Yeah, get out of here, man. People, you know, no, I'm not playing that game. He did it. He murdered her. It was on purpose. That's my opinion. That is my opinion.
What,
based on all
so
the
if
details.
her family now, is it up to them to press charges?
They have. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
that was
they're
the basis
doing
of the
No,
lawsuit.
Not the
no,
civil
no.
charges, though. I mean, like criminal charges. Who
state-
files that?
the state does.
And what are they? So you think they're waiting on it because Alec Baldwin's Alec Baldwin?
So as everyone's already predicted, Alec Baldwin will pay some fat settlement and he'll never see a day in jail. That's the way it works in this country.
Well, I think that then his motivation for thinking that he could do it and get away with it was entirely correct.
Was
And that would be
valid.
perfect motivation to do that. If you got sick of somebody, you're like, boy, I think I can get away with this. Watch me.
Oh, I got an
bet
idea
can
for a
do
movie.
it."
Rust 2. The making of Rust.
Oh, my God.
I'm sure that's coming. He'll be the victim of
that's
the movie.
You know, I got to be
Brutal.
honest. I'd love to make a really a sketch, a really great movie trailer sketch in bad taste about this. You
This
know,
whole thing.
Rust 2, the making of Rust.
Yeah.
the movie trailer.
I have no sympathy for this. Her family right now, if they're not following through, taking this guy down and his entire production crew.
They're suing him.
I mean, taking him down. He has tons of money. He'll pay it out.
What do you
Affluence
think they're going to do?
Put him in prison for 30 years.
They don't do that. The state does.
Put him in
that.
prison for a year.
Ian,
Judge
the
Ian.
state
Yes.
does this.
Yeah, but I mean, where's the pressure from the family? Where's the guy standing up
Oh,
and
you
saying
know-
he just belongs in jail? He killed my wife.
He's thinking, I'd rather just get the $60 million.
He should get both. It's up to him what he wants.
It's not going to come from the family to get legal criminal justice. The state decides. People need to understand this. I don't know if it's true for every state. I think it is. There have been so many instances where someone will file charges, like they'll get attacked, and then the police will arrest a person, and they'll file charges against the person who got arrested, and then the other person says, "I don't want to press charges. I want to withdraw," and the cops will be like, "You aren't pressing charges. We are. It's the state versus Mr. Smith, not Jane Doe versus John Doe. We don't need you as a witness because we already have your medical records showing the attack occurred. Bye-bye." So it doesn't matter what the individuals want. But typically when someone refuses to press charges, if they say, "I don't want to press charges," what they're really saying is, "I'm not going to be a cooperating witness for the state," and the state will likely lose then. And so then the state says, "Okay, get out of here. We're not going to move forward. There's no complaint." And not to mention that, like, do you really want to be a prosecutor who's like, "I've got no witness, no victim, so it's just conjecture, and I'd rather not file the paperwork," to be completely
Right.
honest, right? That's probably what's going to happen.
In
It's
this
a lot of
state,
work, go to court.
They've got a lot of eyewitnesses. I can't imagine none of them would testify. I don't know
Considering
what's
all
going
of the different lawsuits against Alec Baldwin and his company, you'd think there'd be criminal charges against him instantly for doing this. Like, I don't care what the reason is, but this is what I'm saying. It's why I think one of the things about this is a perfect crime. Alec Baldwin wants to kill someone, do it on a movie set. You'll never see it. You'll never see a day in jail.
Rust 2, the perfect crime.
Yes.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
We got to make that happen.
Damn.
And then whenever we show Alec Baldwin, it should be like grainy black and white with like a thunderstorm behind him, and he's like,
Yeah, like a horror movie.
yeah, and then like,
Then it shows him again. He's real big, with the lightning striking behind him. He's like,
Yeah.
now's your time to die. No. Oops, it was an accident.
you know what? I will continue to mock this shooting until they file criminal charges against that guy.
Dude, it's so crazy, man. It's mainstream celebrity. It's political. It's the establishment. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. But I'm glad to see that club falling apart, to be honest. Yeah, maybe some things will change.
I
Check
want
us
to talk
out.
about Roblox. Oh, what are you doing?
Well, no, we have this other story I'll just mention really quickly from BuzzFeed.
Oh.
A Rust crew member texted a warning about accidental gun discharges days before Alec Baldwin fatally shot Helena Hutchins.
Oh, man.
This is super unsafe. I mean, we knew the story, but the more I see this stuff, the more it just pushes me towards, I think they set this thing up. Like, Alec Baldwin's story is so half-brained and, like, insane and contradictory that I'm like, I see this, and I'm just like, I don't believe any of them. I don't believe any of them, man. I think Alec Baldwin, so one thing I think we just heard recently with Nick Searcy, though, is they had A crew and B crew or something like that because of COVID
A,
rules.
B, and C.
Yeah, so you couldn't be in the same room depending on your crew code or whatever.
A could only be in the room with other A's, and B and C had to be out of the room.
That can explain why it was that the armorer wasn't the one who gave the weapon to Alec Baldwin.
That could.
But it doesn't explain why Alec Baldwin threw away his training, why he didn't realize he just shot and killed a person.
Good aim.
Shot dead center through the chest and through the spine. And he was like, I thought she fainted. And just like walks away. It's like.
Yeah, those are the dead giveaways.
Plus, he was on the phone. No, he was on the phone right away, right?
Yeah.
So what? Someone faints, so you get on the phone right away with somebody?
I don't know
Then
if
he
it was
didn't turn his
right
phone
away.
over.
How long? I don't know how long between the shooting and him on the phone. But I'm pretty sure there's pictures of him on the phone outside, like after it happened. I don't know if it was within a minute or within 20 minutes.
And then he didn't turn his phone over. He refused to turn his phone over.
Probably because of his
Didn't-
conversation.
Didn't he eventually do it?
He did
exactly.
eventually. Yeah, it took a long time.
Exactly.
Why? Why did it
Somebody
take a
he
long time?
called, something he was setting up.
It has been done.
Yes.
The weaving of a
Control.
conspiracy is starting to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
I'm actually crying right now for the cameras. They're taking pictures of me as I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Well, the conspiracy theory is that this Helena Hutchins woman was a journalist before she got involved in
saw
cinematography.
Yeah.
And she was doing these investigations. So the conspiracy theorists think that she was still actively investigating something and that she was taken out.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know about any of that stuff,
That
man.
is interesting.
I think
It's
it's
enticing,
more,
though.
Yeah.
I think you got a story of a hothead movie star. He shoved a guy in the street and got sued over it. He screamed at his kid and called her a little pig or something like that, you
Yeah.
little pig. And so he's known for having a bad temper. We know the crew was fighting with him. He lied several times about his story. Isn't it just a simple solution that sometimes people commit murder?
Yeah.
That's it.
It's well, yeah, that is a simple solution. Applying it to
Sometimes.
this is a little more complicated because we don't know where the bullet came from. I want to know.
That's why I'm saying he committed a murder. It came from him. He got a bullet. He put it in the gun.
Yeah.
Why was he using a real gun?
That's the simplest solution.
Got to get the shot. And what I mean is the camera angle. It's got to look right on camera is what I meant by got to get the shot.
The lawsuit is flat out saying that they have prop guns for test filming, like actual replicas and rubber guns. Why was he using a real single action revolver with live ammo in it? Okay, maybe what happened was the assistant director hated Helena and set Alec up and broke the sear on purpose. The sear is the piece inside. It holds the hammer back. He broke it on purpose. And that's why he said Alec Baldwin's finger was off the trigger and he pulled the hammer back and it went off. On a functioning single action, that wouldn't happen. But maybe it was an old weapon and the sear had been worn down and wasn't working properly. So when he pulled the hammer back, it just released right away and slammed
That's
into the
gross negligence by the production company if that's what the case was. The handing Alec a messed up gun is negligence.
No, what gets me is all the people on Twitter who defended Alec Baldwin when I was tweeting about it, and they're like, "Clearly, you don't know anything about how movie sets work." And I'm like, "I do. Whenever you hand someone a gun, it is the responsibility of the person holding the gun. Period. No matter what, at all times. Don't care."
Yeah, and that brings me back to my question. If two 18-year-olds have a camera set up in their living room and one pulls up a gun and points it and shoots it, but there's a bullet in it, does that kid go to prison? Or guy,
Yes.
20-year-olds? Of course.
Yeah.
Just because there's a movie camera on doesn't matter. He should have checked the gun.
Yep.
Right.
Should have done a lot of things. But here we are, man. I don't know. What a crazy story. Ian came in here and he was like, "There's a video of it," and I was like, "No," because everybody was saying they filmed it, right? They filmed what happened.
Oh,
Why don't they
literally?
They're filming, right?
Well, they might have
camera.
been between takes. I don't know if it was rolling. You guys got to watch this video, by the way.
It's not a real video.
No, it's a
of this.
CGI.
Yeah.
And there's music, which is a little manipulative. Makes it creepy. But just watching the flow of it, it just looks so blatant on Alec's part. Thoughtless and blatant.
I mean, the video they made shows Alec just sitting there, and then he grabs the gun and goes bang and
I
shoots
mean,
her.
It might have been more than
Like
that.
Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lifeless eyes.
Yeah.
It's definitely computer.
It's pretty
Zombie.
accurate on that front.
Pretty wild, yeah.
It just shows him sitting there. It's like a perfect rendition of his face.
Yeah.
Perfectly calm. Looks like he's plotting something.
Yeah.
I think the story is important because it shows how people who are aligned with the establishment can just basically get away.
It
with
shows how COVID restrictions can mess up a movie site, so you can't have your armor on set with your acting A team. Apparently, if that's possible, they have an A, B, and C team, which is completely unethical for someone to put those people in that position of danger where the armor can't deliver the gun to the actor.
Yeah.
If that's the case, there's a lot of things that this is blown out of proportion, and that production company is liable for her death. For her,
Well, that's
for
why
her,
everybody's getting sued, but you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. They were already on a low budget production, so I don't know what they're gonna have left anyway.
No.
I keep
Rest
thinking
to-
about
what a
Roblox,
day.
you guys.
You keep thinking why?
Yeah, do you guys know what Roblox is? Have you heard of it? I've been hearing
Yes.
about it, and I'm like, oh, what is it?
do,
Minecraft.
Rust,
Okay.
yeah.
Turns out it's the third largest video game company in the world, next to Nintendo, after Nintendo. And they basically a video game making platform. And what they do is they give the software away for free to little kids to make video games, but what they call them is experiences on Roblox. Because if they call them games, they wouldn't be allowed to put Roblox on the App Store. So they have 200 million or 2 million or whatever experiences that these kids have made. And then other kids can go buy the games, and then the kids that make the game get like 17% of the money or something. And so it's basically this child sweatshops of digital game creation. They're having these kids build the metaverse now. They're starting them off, and it's a corporation. The kids don't have access to the Roblox code. So if they want to go make their own Roblox, they can't. They're stuck learning how to build within the Roblox corporation system. So we have to either make this software free or plan for an eternity of servitude until we can shake these people out of it, because these kids are desperate for money right now.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we're not in a simulation. We're in the metaverse. That's it.
And
That's it.
physics is the code, like math is the code.
Like the universe, people are like, it's a simulation that we're all in. No, we're just we're in Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse.
Yes, because if you go into the metaverse and you don't have the code of the system, it's like not knowing math in this reality and them hiding that from you. Don't let it happen, man.
All right, let's go to Super Chats.
Thanks, homie.
Thanks for that special Roblox shout out, Ian. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, smash that like button, and go to timcast.com, become a member, help support all of the work we do. As a member, you are keeping Chris Karr employed, so that's important. I'm sure
Yes.
Chris is
Extremely important. Yes. I have small children to feed.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
right. And you also get access to those member segments. We're going to have one coming up for you around 11 or so p.m., but let's read these Super Chats. All right, let's see. I can't read the name of the first Super Chat because YouTube blocks it, but like the honk button, don't forget to do that. They say, Tim, when are you going to have another guest on like Vosh that speaks in leftist platitudes to mask ignorance? Seriously, though, please tell him he'd be more effective speaking the common vernacular.
Oh.
You know what really works for the left? And we saw this back during Gamergate with a lot of these personalities who were, prominent feminist academics. Jargon works because it makes people think that you're smarter than they are and that you should follow them or listen to them because they're smart. So they say things using really big words that make no sense instead of simplified language to convey real ideas.
That's why indoctrination on college campuses is so effective.
It's like, I think George Carlin has a good bit about it when he was like, shell shock. You ever hear his bit on shell shock? And he's like, over time we keep making it more serious. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Like it's longer and more like, verbose. Yeah, because that's what people on the left are attracted to. There you go. Mm-hmm. All right. Raymond says, wait, Tim is not far right? I don't know. Wikipedia says so. Actually, Wikipedia calls me a weirdo centrist. Yeah, they're like,
Weirdo-centrist?
yeah, it says like Vice says that I'm left and right. But it's funny because, my Wikipedia page is always locked. And then as soon as I unlock it, it gets vandalized like crazy with other random garbage. Hey, Wikipedia, I invented a Zeppelin. The Let's Go Brandon blimp
That's right.
And I don't see that going up on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
They took that article down. So here's what you do. The article, I don't know where it is. It's The Guardian somewhere that claims I invented a Zeppelin is retroactively correct, and I demand it be put back in my Wikipedia profile.
Right.
So as it is spoken, so shall it be done.
Indeed.
All right. Matt Burkett says Wheeling School District in Illinois is banning parents who are against the mask mandate. Same school district Charlie Kirk went to, and he's here this weekend. Please get the word out. Oh, Wheeling. I'm familiar with Wheeling. I've skated up there once or twice, I think. You know, back in the, what was that, northwest suburbs? SH says, after hearing that TD just froze some accounts today, I just closed all 4 of my accounts with them. Canada bank run.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you've, look, I'm not going to give anybody financial advice, but I'm just saying, if it were me and I had accounts with TD Bank and I heard they froze people's accounts for political reasons, I would pull my money out of that bank so fast, not for political reasons, because they're going to freeze your money.
Exactly.
Someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know when it's coming, man.
Yeah.
And you're going to wake up one day and you're going to try and go to McDonald's to get your coffee and they're going to be like, your card's declined, sir. And you're going to be like, no, that can't be right. And they're going to be like, you're going to pull up your app and say frozen, frozen, frozen. You're going to be like, whoa, I need gas. What am I going to do? And they're going to be like, sir, we couldn't help but notice that you were posting on social media in support of an insurrectionist movement. So we've frozen all of your money. Yeah, sorry. I'd rather have a big envelope full of cash under my mattress than put money in a TD bank account.
I changed my bank for much less than that.
Yeah,
Sure did.
I did. I was at I had a Wells Fargo once
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
years and years ago, and I can't remember what happened. It was something really like petty.
Yeah, me too.
They
Yeah.
like they made me wait, and then were kind of rude to me when I was like politely waiting. So then I walked up and said, you know, I was gonna make a deposit, but I'm changing my mind. Withdraw all of it. And there's a Bank of America literally across the street, 10 feet. And I walked in and I was like, I'll go with you instead.
I got a story I'd like for you guys to hear. I was with Bank of America, and I cashed a check that I got from someone on Craigslist. First red flag: don't ever do that. Don't ever take a check from someone. And $1,500 or $1,000, and they cashed it, and they gave me all the money immediately. So I spent it within like 10 minutes, 800 of the 1,000. And then like a day went by, and they're like, actually the check bounced. We have to take the money back. So they put me at negative $800 in my account, and I was like, yo, I called them up. I'm a customer of the bank. You sold me the money. You can't take it back. And she was like, I agree with you, sir, but there's nothing I can do.
Wow.
Canceled it.
No.
Never went back.
Yeah, I don't think you understand, Ian. There's nothing they can do. If you give them a check and it's on the level, and they give you the cash, and then later on turns out they shouldn't have given you the money, that's on them.
That's what I'm saying. They can't take that back. They already cashed the check.
Well, no. Hold on. Ian, they literally can't. And they didn't, did they?
They gave me the money, and then I spent it, and then they took the money back, as in they gave me a negative charge,
And then you stopped using the account.
and then I to cancel my account with them.
Yeah, yo, Ian, if I walk up to you and say, Ian,
And they put me on creditors, had coming after me and stuff.
if I come after you and say, you owe me $100, you could just say no.
But they had creditors hitting me for years. I still get stuff in the mail. It's like, it's such...
After 7 years, it's no longer
you get
legal.
it's no yeah, but they send letters to you, and if you respond to the letter, then it kicks it back on again, and you got to wait another 7 years. They try and trick
Don't
you.
respond.
Yeah, they try and trick you into
But
paying.
let me just ask, why were you cashing a check from Craigslist?
I was living in LA, and I was working working doing body work on the beach, like just living paycheck to paycheck. And I sold a bunch of my magic cards for money, and I did. And the guy was like, "I'll just give you $1,500 for all of them," because he didn't want to go through them one
And he
by
gave
one.
you a bunk check.
And he gave me a check, but I did get $800 out of it.
Sure did.
Bank of America shouldn't have.
Awesome.
But for
Yeah, they
checks like
shouldn't
that,
have.
the banks hold the money.
They're
first.
supposed to make sure the check is clear before they give me the money. They should have done that,
Yeah, man.
or just gave me the money and walked away. I don't know.
Yeah.
Valkyria says, Ian, you're weird, you're random, but I'll still give you a bear hug. Love you, mate, and the rest of the gang. 2 more days till Total Warhammer 3, Blood for the Blood God. All right. Do you play Warhammer, Ian?
I played a little bit of Total War Warhammer 2 and 1, but I played Warhammer Tabletop. Did you guys ever play that? Space Marines, Grey Wolves.
No.
The Eldar, I think, are my favorite. There's these like alien elves that have really high tech weaponry,
All right.
distortion cannons that can make things vanish, like from thin air.
That was more Halo.
Deep
Played more
particulate.
Halo.
Sounds good.
Space Marines.
Let's read this. We got Raymond the Turk Longwell says, Bro Michael is 40 today. Happy birthday, Michael. When he sees this later drunk, he'll be happier than Luke is when he's forcing signatures to work out. Signatures?
Yeah, for the vlog. Yeah, he made everyone sign a thing saying they'd work out.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All
okay.
right. All right.
Yep.
Well, happy birthday,
funny.
Michael.
Yep.
Happy
Yep.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Let's grab some more super chats. Let's see what we got. Ricky K says, Ottawa police chief resigns. That's right. That's crazy, man. All right. It's Me says they can turn the protest on its head by just driving 5 miles an hour. Now what the government going to do? And same effect. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying before. If a bunch of truckers just drove, they could be like, hey, you're blocking the road. And they'll be like, I'm not trying to. I'm driving. But there's just so many trucks here.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had the Freedom Convoy, with how many thousands of truckers. Instead of actually just barricading any bridge or anything, they just drove. It would just be jammed up. And then you go in circles.
What was that one CNN analyst? She was like, her solution was like slash their tires.
Oh, yeah.
And,
the Harvard professor.
Everyone on Twitter was like, so you're just going to slash like hundreds of tires? It just kind of defeats the purpose. They're just going to stay there.
Yeah.
Then
You
move
don't
the
slash
trucks.
those tires, man.
Right.
No. Yeah.
So people were commenting, like, if you do that, they'll burst.
Literally burst.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll get
Yeah.
A lot of pressure
seriously
on there.
hurt, man. Don't do that. Yep. Michelle says, all Trudeau has to do is comply, and the mandates and all the truckers will go home. It really shouldn't be that difficult. Yeah, seriously. Think about being one of these crackpot authoritarians supporting this. No, you should comply and just take the injection. Your body is meaningless. Creepy, man. Weirdos. All right. What is this? Jeremy Nguyen says yes, because farmers and plumbers want to rule the world.
Yeah.
Certainly don't. Okami says, I knew that guy. Not only was he a psychotic lefty, he also used his meager fame in the local punk scene to keep on young teenage girls. I don't know who they're referring to. Who are they referring to?
I guess it's the guy that tried to assassinate the mayor.
Oh,
Canada.
right.
Yikes.
Creepy. Ian Bridges says, Tim, the firearms seized at the Alberta-Montana border were mostly from a local residence, not from vehicles. The media lies all the time.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
John Boy says, Jordan Peterson interviewed one of the truckers. He said what they want is an end to the vax mandate and passport. Ghislaine Maxwell convicted in Epstein case, so media coverage there more interested in Rogan. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Michael says, I'm a boomer and I'm watching you. Yes, there are many boomers who watch.
Thank you.
But,
Right.
My point was about boomers aging out is not meant to be disrespectful. It's just that, boomers are aging. And so they're less likely to be in industry and corporations and politics. Although for some reason, in politics, they're sticking around in D.C. Man. Greasy Nails says, is it always a charge of misinformation without giving an example? Also, Fortenberry, what is the deal? Is he getting the HUSCO from the FBI? What is that?
I don't know.
I don't know what that means. HUSCO?
I'm not sure.
Don't know what that is.
Oh, sorry.
Lumberjack says, this is what a progressive woke leader does, acting like a dictator. Keyword acting drama teacher. Ian, we need your mental energy. So say we all, this is the way, hunk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. I'm going to fix my posture so the energy can flow.
There you go. Carolyn says, Tim, I'm 60 years old and a proud boomer. I'm a fan. Can you please stop telling me I'm dying every chance you get? Thank you. With all due respect,
That's fair.
aging out means a variety of things. It doesn't mean you're dying.
It's like retiring.
Yes.
Yeah, like retiring. And so when Gen Z and millennials are aging in, you have a millennial being appointed to the CEO of a new company. That millennial energy is coming in. I'm going to just say, the boomers, I could be wrong, but boomers are the ones who made the next generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was boomers, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
You did
Still
good,
living with the
boomers.
consequences.
You did
Yep.
good.
Yeah.
And then Gen Xers and boomers joined forces to make shows like Stargate. And what other good stuff was there in the late
Indiana
90s, 2000s?
Jones. Oh, or that
Firefly.
Firefly was pretty
Firefly's
good.
good.
Yeah.
Stargate was great. Stargate was so great. Yeah, that was boomers and Gen Xers. teaming
Battlestar
up.
was around
Teamwork,
before.
yeah.
Then millennials came in and they were just like, but can we make it so like the hero's in a wheelchair?
Oh my gosh.
We're like, okay.
Way to go.
The
And
hero's
then
not
nobody-
good enough and the villain's not bad enough. Make it more obvious.
But can we make the hero a villain who steals clothing from a guy on a motorcycle because he tells her to smile?
And is a girl.
Actually, isn't the guy who made Ghostbusters 2016, he was a Gen Xer, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Paul Feig or whatever his name?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Feig.
that guy.
I didn't see. Is that
Probably.
Captain
Yeah, I think he's
Marvel
Gen
where
X.
she stole the motorcyclist?
Yeah.
That's Terminator 2. They just ripped it off of Terminator
Right.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
nice.
He's like, you should smile more, and she's like, and then she steals his clothes.
Derivative.
But I guess the point was like she's supposed to be a bad guy, brainwashed or whatever. But it was just so obvious what they were going for with Captain Marvel, where it's like there's a man who suppressed her power by putting a device on her. And then in the end, she realizes she has the power all along and like breaks free or something. And he keeps telling her to control her emotions. No, for real. He's like, you need to control your emotions. She's like, and it's like, what? She has it made no sense because like, what are you talking about? She can shoot energy beams from her hands. She doesn't need to control that. She needs to use that as a weapon against bad guys. And he's like, control your emotions. Don't use your energy weapons or whatever.
He's right, but there's a better way to communicate that with someone than to tell them to stop.
And then she's got this thing suppressing it. I don't understand why they would give her all of these powers and bring her on the team if they didn't want her to use it. It was basically just like, and then it's like, no man's going to keep me down.
Oh, snap, Z-snap, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, let's read. Trey Allen says, Ian mentioning why do listen to these people in wigs reminds me of Always Sunny. The gang cracks the Liberty Bell. I haven't seen that in a long time. All right. 2D System says, is it against YouTube TOS to call for everyone to just not file their taxes this year? I think it is. I think it's illegal.
So, yeah.
I like the idea of organizing mass civil disobedience with internet video, but you got to be careful with terms of service and stuff too. I would err on the side of like, if you're going to do it on your own network. But, once the video's up, they pull it down. I don't know.
I think everyone should be happy and proud to pay their taxes.
Yeah, of course.
When
I just want to know where they go.
And
Nowhere good.
Well, that's the point. We should be, but we're not. We're not happy. There's a great meme. Someone said, is a lefty, they were like, I would like universal health care. And then they were like, conservative responds, well, then who's going to pay for it? And they're like, me, you idiot. Stop taking my money to blow up kids. And I'm like, my other solution is like, stop taking my money to blow up kids. Let me keep it and I'll buy healthcare with that too.
Dude,
right,
I'm down for either left or right populist response
Thomas
to this.
Massey was saying we could repeal the Department of Education or do whatever to remove it, $400 million a year. Then we could split that to the states, $8 million per state for teachers.
There you go.
Interesting. That might be a good approach.
No, I'm not a fan of that.
Of splitting up the DOE?
I don't like
Education,
public education. Yeah.
Give it to families.
Yeah, if you give it to families.
I think we need, I think we'd be much, much better off with like a voucher system, maybe.
Yeah, families, so they can go wherever they want.
Yeah. You choose. Well, how do you pronounce this? Keoshe says, BC Canuck here. The Convoy freedom protests have been inspiring, finally giving a sliver of hope after 2 long years. However, every day I fail to shake off a dread that grips me hard. I'm worried about where this all leads.
That nails it. That's exactly how I feel about this situation.
The night is always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep. We got a couple people, DeBob and Ted, mentioning Defiant L's was suspended on Twitter today.
I saw that.
Bummer. This is from John. He says, 28 caliber is actually a thing. It's equivalent to 7mm. So a 7mm Remington Magnum is a .284 caliber bullet, kind of like the 5.56 is a .223. So basically 28 caliber is a thing, but no one refers to it that way. So look, but sure, but you're saying a .284. The point is, in the film The Dark Knight, the guy on the stand pulls a gun. It doesn't go, it fails to fire, misfires. And then Harvey Dent grabs it, takes it apart, and he goes, Chinese made 28 caliber. If you want to kill a public official, I recommend you buy American. And they're like, woo, and they're all clapping. And then I remember when I first watched the movie, I was like, yeah. And then I watched it again a few months ago and having purchased many guns. And I was like, and I went, 28. I was like, I don't have any of those. Is that what? And I looked it up, and as soon as you Google it, it's like, it's not a thing.
That's funny.
They have no, they couldn't have even asked somebody. He could have said 9mm, or he could have said like something Chinese. I don't know, making a reference to a gun made in China. I don't know. I imagine. I actually don't have any Chinese-made guns. All of my guns are American. I have a Turkish.
How dare
Turkish
you?
too,
How dare
yeah.
you say something like that, Tim?
What? That I don't have any Chinese-made
Yeah,
guns?
how dare you say something like that? Look where you are. You're in
In
the United
America?
States of China.
Yeah.
Bro. You can't say stuff like that on YouTube. What's wrong with you?
Seriously.
Oh yeah, that's
We got
right.
censored.
All right. Joshua Ryman says, Tim, I've been watching since May 2020. You brought hope and solace where at the time there was none of. I am in Madison, Wisconsin, conservative, and a member of Timcast. My family and I believe. Keep pushing forward, and God bless. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Nice.
Let's see. Bookworm says, Tim, your crypto bait and switch theory you've mentioned a few times is not new. Look up Nisara. Some people calling it the quantum financial reset, and I think it's benevolent. Others think it's planned and reason for Q psyop. Yeah, I've heard about that stuff, but that's not necessarily the same thing. I mean, I get it. Bitcoin exists and people are doing stuff with it, and all of these big financial institutions are adopting it. What are we hearing now? There's rumors. Maybe this is actually out there that oil companies are going to get into the mining game.
Ooh.
Do you hear that?
Interesting.
I think that was Bloomberg.
I tweeted out that I thought maybe corporations shouldn't be able to own crypto, and I don't know why I thought that. It was really a rudimentary thought, but that like if they're going to take crypto, which they could, it would just go straight through to the employees.
Interesting.
It just seems very dangerous to like corporations have like a personality when it comes to finance.
Kevin says, I live in Anaheim. Hell yeah, Disney owns us. Town of Mouse. I was down there when during the riots in Anaheim, almost 10 years ago now, and it was crazy, the response. They had police on horseback with bokin.
Whoa.
You know what that is?
Is that the two balls with the...
No, that's a bolus.
Oh, a bolus.
Look it up.
Okay.
Boken?
I think it's called a bokin.
Bokken?
Is that what it is?
I think
Is it
so.
Japanese
Found it.
weapon or something?
It's a wooden sword.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's a
Japanese
long
wooden sword.
Japanese wooden sword.
Oh,
Used for
wow.
training in
Wow.
kenjutsu.
Yeah, and so they're riding on
Interesting.
horseback with these really long wooden swords, like guiding people and like swinging them around.
That's surreal.
I love it.
Blue Sea says, Tim, some Gen X parents had kids age 35 plus. We watch you and have Gen Z teens, so there is hope. That is good to hear. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we talk about generations, but there is a wave. It's a gradient. It's not like
Yeah.
everyone is just 35 and 25. And although, there are some people who probably envision a world in which everything is deeply controlled and people just, breed when told. They're concerned about population growth. They don't want people having too many children and things like that. So then they can, interesting. Defiant Elves was suspended for ban evasion.
For what?
Ban evasion.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
I call BS.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Yep. Trudeau on a shop at a pressure, Betacaf Care says, in the words of the great Raketa, under every judge's robe is just a naked dude or woman.
I mean, yes.
Yeah?
Technically correct.
There you
That's
go.
kind of correct.
Christopher says, Tim, my wife and I moved to West Virginia this year. The freedom is amazing. We want to raise chickens.
Yes.
What do you do with your males? We don't want to kill them only because they're inconvenient. Love the show. Can't wait to visit Freedomistan. So, we have 5 roosters. In Chicken City, we've removed the Black Star chickens and sent them off to Freedomistan, which is their own little version now. I hope they're doing all right. We have people there taking care of them, but as we're building the new space. We only have 2 roosters here now, and it's Roberto and his son, Roberto Jr., and they get along just fine. They have a massive amount of space. There have been no problems. So what I was told by several people is that because he was a baby and grew up around all of them and the rooster, they're fine and they won't fight. But there may come a time when they're both fully grown, and then Roberto Jr. says, I'm in charge now. But what I read is it's a misconception that roosters kill each other. They only do if you take 2 different roosters who don't know each other and put them in a small confined space. But if they grow up together, they have a pecking order, they should be fine. That being said, you try to keep them separated and try to make sure the roosters have enough.
Is there always an alpha rooster?
An alpha?
Like
Well,
if there's like
pecking
20
order.
of them on a farm, there's a
Yeah.
pecking order?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I used to live next to somebody who had like 50 chickens, and they just separate into flocks. So they can freely move about in the field. But one group of chickens with one rooster over here, and then one rooster over here, and then one rooster over here, and they kind of just did their own thing. They had their own crew. It is really funny to see that we introduced the 3 babies that the first ones we raised when we introduced them back into Chicken City. Now that they've all become part of the same flock, it's funny to see Roberto, who's the dad, be very protective of them. When I'm trying to clean things out or move something, and he's yelling at me. Here's the crazy thing: Roberto Jr., who is he grew up with these 2 hens. I was trying to herd them back inside. I was letting them go out and eat berries and eat grass. And then when I was trying to wiggle a stick at him to get him to go, he runs up and bows his head and puffs his wings out like he was going to fight me. And I'm like, man, He's a man now.
Right.
We raised him from a little baby who hatched out of that egg, and we watched it. Now he's all
Getting
tough, like, hey, you
big.
stay away from my girls.
Is Junior the one that was singing, that had like the unique?
No.
Okay.
No, Mr. Singer is one of the Black Stars. He has a weird, you know, he didn't peep. He had like a whistle.
The two, Roberto and Roberto Jr., they have different crows. Or what,
yeah.
what are they called? What's the sound called that they make? Crow? Yeah.
I guess.
It's very, very unique. I can hear them both throughout the day. They come on at different times.
Well, the funny thing is when Roberto Jr. was first learning how to crow, he kept falling.
He's trying really hard.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. But now he's got the hang of it, and he's doing all right. But it's different, right?
It's cute.
All right, let's read some more Super Chats. Let's see. Chrome Leader says, if you can prove he had control of the recoil, you can prove guilt. That's interesting. If he was firing and anticipated a blank and it like pulled his hand back or something, if he was anticipating it and pulled the trigger and had control, you could make an argument that he knew it was loaded.
Whoa.
Interesting. Yeah.
Especially if
Very
his
good
finger was
point.
off the trigger. I got to tell you, man, maybe I'm wrong about this, but my understanding is if I was holding a gun and I'll put it this way. We've got, I've got a KSG 25, right? It's a pump action shotgun with 2 mag tubes. It holds 25 shells, 1 in the chamber and 12 in each chamber. And you can put in like turkey shot or something, 12 gauge, and then buckshot on the other side. Or you know what? I shouldn't even say that. If you take a shotgun and you put, bird shot, then buckshot, and you tell someone it's only got bird shot, they are going to be very, very surprised when the buckshot goes off. It's going to be very different. So, granted, shotguns are much more powerful. I think it's funny when Joe Biden's like, get a shotgun. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, if you can't handle a shot, I don't know if people can handle shotguns, man. They're not, they're not as simple as people make them out to be.
So are these semi-automatic? The KSG?
No, it's not. I said pump action.
Oh, pump action. Are semi-automatic shotguns illegal?
I think if they in Maryland, if they have a pistol grip and they're semi-auto, they're illegal. If they're semi-automatic with a rifle grip, I think they're legal. And then but you could have a pistol grip and pump, and it's fine. But the point is, Alec Baldwin anticipating the recoil, I think, is very interesting. Yeah, because that's something, moving that slug out, and he anticipated it. The fact that he said he didn't know she had shot with a live bullet, I'm calling BS on.
Oh, yeah, no way.
It's got to be a lie.
Like we've got a variety, over in West Virginia, a variety of different shotgun shell types. And when I'm talking to people and training them, I always like to give them like snake shot, like some like game load, something really weak. But you're not going to give someone a slug on their first, attempt at firing a weapon.
Yeah.
So you give them something lighter. For him to be in control of it, I just say BS, man. I say BS. It's me, says Baldwin is producer. Lots to lose. Mm-hmm. Yep. Man, this is crazy stuff. Let's read some more. Leslie Dow says he didn't react to her death because he's a sociopath. Ryan says Alec Baldwin said she was intense. That's right. Is that how you describe your friends?
No, absolutely not.
It's like a semi-negative thing to call somebody. You know what I mean?
It's
You're an
neutral.
intense person.
Yeah, it's neutral.
Well, it's a
best.
neutral way of criticizing them.
Right.
Like, who wants to be around someone who's intense all the time?
Stressful. Yeah.
You know? G says, I think Alec Baldwin playing Trump for so long rubbed off on him. I.e., I can shoot a man on the White House lawn and everyone will still love me. He believed his own press in his mind.
There's something to that. Heath Ledger did the Joker and then took his life basically
true.
shortly after.
That's true.
And when you get into method acting and you act, you really believe you are the character while you're doing it to make it real, it does change your brain chemistry.
It was like Jim Carrey. What was that movie?
Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon.
Yeah.
Expedition says, first assistant director here. Armorer is A crew and should be the one who gives weapon. First AD, armorer, and actor all inspect up and together. Every take and every time gun is brought out. Sloppy on protocols. Or intentional. That's what I'm saying. Oof. How do you assume that multiple people all made the perfect mistake that allowed him to pull out a gun and shoot a woman and then be like, I didn't know?
Because it's like monkeys with
lying,
typewriters.
Yeah, seriously.
Yep. All right, let's see what we get. Someone said something. All right. Let's. Don White says, Defiant L's being banned from Twitter is unbelievable. That account was nothing more than a mirror.
Yep.
Yeah.
Didn't like the mirror.
Heiser Flip says, will you ever have David Pakman on? Do you agree with anything he says? David is always welcome to come on.
Yes.
And I think David is wrong because I don't think David does journalism. And I don't mean that I don't mean that disrespectfully. When Dave Rubin told, I think he tweeted AOC, like, hey, someone on your team who thinks I'm a journalist, please stop sending this to me. He was like, please stop sending me your press releases. And then she responded with, oh, someone must have thought you were a journalist. We'll get you removed promptly. All these leftists were like, oh, sick burn. And it's like, Dave Rubin was never a journalist. He's a comedian. He's a comedian, political commentator.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm not a journalist. Don't send me these. And they were acting like it was a burn. It just makes no sense. So anyway, what I mean is there have been, I haven't watched as much of David's stuff in a while as I used to. But, I mention often how when Ted Cruz correctly cited Politico and the New York Times pertaining to Ukraine meddling in the 2016 election to help Democrats, instead of actually Google searching the stories to see if it was true, David just mocked Trump. And I'm just like, it's a weird thing because it takes you 5 seconds to do this, to look up the New York Times article that says Ukrainian court rules that, individuals meddled in the election to help Democrats. You can just look that up. It takes you 5 seconds. It's the New York Times. But David didn't even do that. So my opinion on David is he's entitled to his opinions on certain things. We have different politics. But I think over the past several years, he's just, his show is based on, look, he provides commentary on the commentary of others. Like in that circumstance, he was watching Meet the Press and then commenting on the opinions of Meet the Press instead of doing research. And one other example, and it's been a long time, so I think it would be a great conversation. We ran 2 videos in the same day. One said Donald Trump's approval rating, disapproval all-time high, and mine was Donald Trump's approval rating all-time high. How could that be possible? Well, David used a single poll. I used an aggregate poll. In aggregate, Donald Trump's approval rating reached its highest point. In a single poll, Donald Trump's approval rating was as low as it's ever been. That's the difference, I suppose, and at least how I view our content. But of course, then, if you're a leftist, you look at David's stuff and you're like, see, he's right. Everybody hates Trump. And then they see my content and they're like, he's lying. That's not true. Right. We've all seen the poll. And I'm like, I'm talking about the Real Clear Politics average, which includes all of the polls. And I look at 538. I like Civics a lot, though, too, for its timeline. All right, everybody. If you haven't already smashed the honk the like button right now and give us those likes and go to timcast.com, become a member, help support the show, keep our journalists employed. And as a member, you'll get access to our exclusive member segments. We're going to have one coming up for you around 11 or so p.m. tonight. So make sure you check that out. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. Drew, you want to shout anything out?
Yes, I have a big announcement. I signed a deal with Turning Point USA. We will be launching a show called Frontlines. I'll be hosting 5 days a week. It'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every single day, and we will be covering the news every single day, but also we will be deploying journalists. We're setting up a team as well and connecting with journalists and on-the-ground reporters worldwide because, I think we have seen this decline in journalism. We've seen this decline in reporting, and I think one of the most essential centerpieces, this is just my opinion, I know a lot of journalists may disagree, is actual on-the-ground reporting, like having people there. Because we could sit here and comment on the news, but I think we get stuff wrong sometimes because we're not actually there, and none of us are perfect, but that's kind of what we want to start bringing more to the table with my show, as well as actually talking to the people on the ground, getting what's going on worldwide, not only the United States. So that's coming down the pike soon, and my first episode will be this upcoming Tuesday, and I promised all my followers and my audience that I would eventually do something with Kyle Rittenhouse. So just publicly, Kyle will be my first guest on episode 1 this Tuesday, breaking down what we both went through during the trial and what he has coming down, which he has some pretty big announcements coming next week. You'll hear it on my show only, so I'm excited for that. Thank you guys. You guys can follow me on Twitter, Drew H Live. You can follow me on my YouTube channel. I think that's in the description. I think Lid put in. So thank you guys for having me. It's going to be awesome.
All right. I just want to shout out our amazing journalists on the team. We got the head writer, Hannah Claire, the tireless Michael. We've got Jay Lee. We've got Charlie. We've got the fearless Halad. And, of course, we have our esteemed editor-in-chief, the unstoppable, indefatigable force of nature that is Cassandra McDonald.
Love her.
Yeah.
Formerly Cassandra Fairbanks.
Of course,
for those
yeah,
that
yeah.
Don't know
And
about
she
the
sent me
name change.
some video of her monkeys. All you got to do is ask.
Oh, yeah.
Cassandra will deliver.
Nice.
Drew, just to clarify, when people go to watch your show on Tuesday, what is the URL that they hit?
Yes, they can watch it on the Turning Point USA YouTube channel. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be Twitter. I think they're going to get it on Getter eventually. And
Is it
then the
live?
website as well. It's live.
Cool, man.
It'll be live every single
Amazing.
day.
You guys can follow me at iancrossland.net if you want to get in touch with me via social networks, and I will look forward to talking to you. See you later.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, Drew, is that comes in podcast form, right? Eventually.
I think they're going to run it with the podcast.
Perfect.
But right now we're just launching the live show. And I'm just super stoked because it's
Yeah.
going to be awesome to see how this... It's like my madness coming into their world. And I think people
Yeah.
are really going to start to see how that unfolds. Because one of the main things I wanted to get across was like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to stay me. I'm not going to change me. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing on a bigger platform. And that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Awesome.
love that all my like on the ground reporters are really coming into their own. I think that's awesome and necessary. You guys may follow me on Twitter and minds.com at Sour Patch Lids.
We will see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out. Make sure to sign up, support our work, and we'll see you all there.
Bye, guys.